Chapter 83. Deep into the night, a bolt of lightning broke the silence in the forest. Following that, heavy rain began to fall from the sky. It was not easy to have such heavy rain in late autumn. Lin Muyu put on her armor, opened a black umbrella, and walked out of the resting tent with the burning prairie sword in hand. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin's tents were further away, guarded by Qin Lei and Feng Jixing. The rain landed on the oil paper umbrella with pitter-patter. The stars could no longer be seen in the sky, and the bonfire on the ground was also struggling in the rain. Many Imperial Army soldiers wanted to keep the bonfire alive, but they had no way to do so. It was a mess for a moment. Many people who were patrolling outside on horseback also quickly rushed over and hid in the tents. Lord Linji. Not far away, an Imperial Army soldier smiled and asked, "Why are you standing in the rain alone with an umbrella? Quick, come into the tent to hide from the rain. Otherwise, you might get sick if you get wet." Lin Ji shook his head and smiled. "There's no need. Thank you. I'll take a look around." He was a Gold Star member of the Divine Sanctum. Even among these Imperial Army soldiers, he was already an influential figure. Moreover, he was familiar with Feng Jixing and Qin Lei. Therefore, Lin Muyu was rather free in the camp. The rain pitter-pattered and extinguished the last bonfire. As a result, the forest had already become dark. Clang. Drawing the burning prairie sword, he exhaled a small amount of vital energy from his palm and infused it into the sword. Immediately, streams of raging flames that could not be extinguished by the rain surrounded the sword, illuminating a small distance. He walked around the camp step by step. He had to ensure that there were no enemies in the surroundings. After all, it was because of him that Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin had come to the Dragon Forest. If anything were to happen to these two pearls of the Empire, he would definitely feel guilty for the rest of his life. "The tent is leaking. Quick, find some wide leaves." It was unknown who shouted, but many of the Imperial Guards rushed into the forest to cut down the trees. At this moment, there was a sudden rustling sound from the right. Lin Muyu immediately turned around in alarm. Raising the burning prairie sword, she lit up the dark corner and shouted, "Who is it? I don't speak." In the darkness, a beautiful face peeled off the hood. It was none other than Qin Yin. However, she was wearing the armor of an Imperial Guard. Her lips curled up into a smile as she asked, "What's wrong, you? Do I look strange?" "Your Highness, why are you dressed like this? If I don't dress like this, how can I sneak away?" She giggled, her beauty unmatched. "Slip away? Hurry up, Xiao, she is waiting for us in front." Qin Yin once again lifted her cloak to cover her face. Her dark golden royal cloak was airtight. It seemed like it could also shelter her from the rain. Lin Muyu was confused. She had to hold the umbrella for her with one hand and the Liaoyuan sword with the other to light the way. Qin Yin raised her head and saw that Lin Muyu was drenched, but she was covering her head with an umbrella. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile warmly, but she didn't say anything. She knew that as the princess of the Empire, saying too much would only make her look pretentious. "You guys are so slow." Further ahead, beside a pile of shrubbery, Tang Xiaoxi's voice came. She was also wearing the armor of an Imperial Guard, which made her exquisite figure look a little funny. Furthermore, she was leading 3 fine horses. She said with a smile, "You guys are too slow. Next time don't let me steal horses. I was almost kicked by this fierce warhorse." Lin Muyu already knew what they wanted to do. She couldn't help but say, "Isn't it a little inappropriate for us to sneak away like this? Big brother Feng Jixing and big brother Qin Lei will definitely go crazy looking for you." "It's fine. I left a letter in the tent." Qin Yin smiled with dimples. "It's so dark, where are we going?" Lin Muyu asked. Qin Yin muttered to herself as she pondered. The mist formed by the autumn rain landed on her long eyelashes and quickly condensed into droplets of dew. They trembled and fell one after another, adding a sense of harmony to this beauty. However, she didn't notice it. She raised her head with a smile and said, "Let's head south and avoid the marching route of the large army. We'll take a detour into the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. Don't say anything else. Get on the horses and find a place to rest before dawn." Lin Muyu nodded. This was the only way. The three of them turned around and mounted their horses, heading straight south. In the end, after galloping for less than half an hour, a ray of golden light suddenly shot through the darkness behind them. It seemed to be the light of the god binding chains. Your Highness. Qin Lei's voice came. It was indeed him. He had actually caught up. Don't run. Qin Lei shouted loudly. He suddenly raised the martial spirit in his hand and the god-binding chains broke through the earth with a ping 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 sound, blocking in front of Qin Yin. However, Qin Yin wasn't someone who was easy to deal with. She lightly opened her snow-white palm and the same god-binding chains came out from her body, defeating Qin Lei's martial spirit one after another. She turned around and said with a smile, Big brother Qin Lei, don't chase us anymore. Go back and wait for us. We'll be back in a few days. No. Qin Lei said with no room for negotiation. His Majesty sent me to protect you. I definitely can't leave even half a step. Qin Yin clenched her teeth. You follow me every day. Don't you know how annoying it is? There's no freedom at all. Do you understand this kind of feeling? You big idiot. Qin Lei was an extremely simple and honest youth. He urged his horse forward and didn't open an umbrella, allowing the rain to fall on his body. He rubbed his head and said with a smile, I can more or less understand this kind of feeling. However, Xiao Yin, you are too important to the empire. There can't be a single mishap. I can indulge you in everything, but this is the only thing I absolutely cannot give in to. As he spoke, Qin Lei raised his sword-like eyebrows and looked at Lin Muyu, saying, You brat should help me persuade her. Lin Muyu looked towards Qin Yin, but before he could say anything, Qin Yin blocked him with a sentence. If you treat me, Qin Yin, as a friend, then don't persuade me. I hate being stared at by a group of people all day. Tang Xiaoxi laughed lightly, taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. Lin Muyu rubbed his nose and said, Your Highness, why don't we do this? Let big brother Qin Lei follow us alone. It'll be safer for the four of us to enter the depths of the dragon-seeking forest to train, right? Yes, you is right. Qin Lei looked at Lin Muyu gratefully, then said, I'll go with you all alone. I won't bring any men and horses. Your Highness, this should be fine, right? Qin Yin's small and exquisite nose was slightly raised. She huffed angrily and said, Then follow us, but you all have to listen to me along the way. You're not allowed to use Father Emperor to pressure me, or else you'll go back immediately. Qin Lei felt as if he'd been granted amnesty. All right, I'll definitely listen to you. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi looked at each other and smiled. In the end, the adventuring this time went from 3 people to 4 people. That was good too. Qin Lei's strength was the strongest among the 4. With him around, it would be a bit safer. Traveling 100 miles in the night, they encountered a few spirit beasts below 1,000 years old, but they were all easily taken care of by Lin Muyu and Qin Lei. Qin Lei had seen Lin Muyu's 4-elemental imperial sword at the last Eve festival banquet, so he admired this handsome youth very much. So even though there was a great disparity between their statuses, he was still very polite along the way. The rain stopped, and the sky brightened. Sunlight fell on their bodies. Qin Yin rode on a warhorse, her whole body enshrouded in a faint fiery light. Unknowingly, she'd already used the god-binding lock's fiery strength to dry the clothes on her body. Tang Xiaoxi's martial spirit was a firefox, so she could naturally do it easily as well. As for Lin Muyu and Qin Lei, it wasn't so troublesome. The fiery energy of their virgin bodies was enough to dry their clothes. The 3 took a roundabout route south, and after a day, they finally entered the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. In the afternoon, the lazy sunlight shone on every part of the forest. Qin Lei held a map scroll in his hand, looked at it carefully for a while, then said, According to the records on the map, we still need to travel south for about 3 days, and we'll be able to reach the legendary dragon graveyard area. However, that place is a forbidden area, and the spirit beasts on the way are also quite strong. It's said that it's been a long time since anyone has entered that place alive. Tang Xiaoxi's fire fox martial spirit was jumping on her fragrant shoulder. She giggled and said, It doesn't matter. We have a total of 4 people this time. Big brother Qin is in the heaven realm, and the rest are all in the earth realm. However, as long as we meet a suitable spirit beast, Xiao Yin and Mu can both step into the heaven realm. At that time, our overall strength will be even stronger, and it won't matter even if we meet a spirit beast. Qin nodded. Holding a warblade that flickered with lightning, he urged his horse to walk at the very front. This blade had quite a history. It was called the Thunder Split Blade, and it was said to be a mysterious great treasured blade. Prince Yuning had gone through a lot of trouble to get his hands on it, and in the end he gave it to his eldest son, Qin. It also made Qin one of the few experts in the Imperial City, so much so that when the Thunder Split Blade was mentioned in the Imperial City, they would definitely think of Qin, and when Qin was mentioned, they would definitely not forget his Thunder Split Blade. What kind of martial spirit does you need? Seeing that Lin Muyu had been silently hurrying along, Qin tilted her head, smiled, and asked in a gentle voice. Lin Muyu was startled and a little overwhelmed by the favor. In fact, he had seen countless beautiful women in his original world, but none of those women could be mentioned in the same breath as Qin. The Qin in front of him, whether it was in terms of temperament or appearance, surpassed him by too much. That kind of celestial beauty, that kind of luxurious beauty, was not something that common rouge and powder could compare with. A plant-type spirit beast is fine, and it's also fine if it's not. My martial spirit isn't picky, thank you for your concern, Your Highness. Qin couldn't help giggling and said, a martial spirit that isn't picky? You is really interesting. Just at this time, Qin suddenly raised his arm in front of them and said in a low voice, I'm afraid that the spirit beast that isn't picky has already arrived. Everyone be careful, there's a spirit beast 300 meters to our north, with a lifespan of at least 5,000 years. 5,000 years? Not only was Qin not worried, she even revealed a trace of excitement. Raising her hand, she drew the sword at her waist and said with a smile, then let's prepare to make our move? Wait first. Qin expression was extremely grave and said, it's a stone beast, its surface is even harder than stone, and its strength is extremely great. Moreover, a 5,000-year-old stone beast is even more not to be underestimated. You, prepare to attack together with me. With your martial spirit's defense, it's even more convenient to deal with this kind of stone beast. Lin Muyu drew her long sword and said cheerfully, N. Chapter 84. A huge rock that seemed to be grayish-white was entrenched in the middle of the valley. It was as big as a disc, but upon closer inspection, one could discover that the surface of the rock was actually made up of rock scales. This was a stone beast that was curled up together. Furthermore, it seemed to have discovered the scent of humans as its body slowly moved and let out a low roar. Qin held the Thunder Split Blade tightly and looked at Lin Muyu, saying, I have also encountered a stone beast when I was training in the wild in the past, but it was only 1,800 years old. You must not underestimate the strength of the stone beast. Its movements are very agile, and its claws are sharp. One strike is enough to break a 10-centimeter thick heavy shield. Furthermore, the rock scales on its surface are very thick, and normal attacks cannot break it. Later, you will attract the stone beast and I will attack. How about it? Lin Muyu waved her palm lightly, and the gourd martial spirit came out of her body, condensing into the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall. She nodded and said, I will go first. Big brother Qin, you have to be careful. You be careful too. Lin Muyu actually had an indescribable feeling of excitement in her heart. This time, the 4 of them came out to train together, and it was true that her defensive ability was the strongest. Therefore, she naturally took on the role of MT. The responsibilities of attracting aggro, taunting the opponent, and taking damage fell onto her. However, this was not a game. Once the team was annihilated, it meant death. There was no chance to revive and start over. The huge rock slowly began to shake. The huge disc separated into a head and a tail, and the head that was entrenched at the tail suddenly raised up. It was the face of an evil beast. It suddenly opened its bloody mouth and pounced towards Lin Muyu. This stone beast's body was at least a few dozen tons in weight. When it moved, the earth and mountains shook, but its movement speed was definitely not slow. Lin Muyu saw it clearly. Her left hand spun around her waist and grabbed the demon noise blade. She spat out her true energy and threw the demon noise blade out. Shio. This hidden weapon carried a sharp whistling sound as it rushed towards the weak point of the stone beast's head, its eyes. Unexpectedly, this big fellow was so agile that it actually moved its head to avoid the injury to its eyes. Instead, it turned its forehead to collide with the demonic noise blade. With a dang sound, sparks flew in all directions as the demonic noise blade was sent flying. From afar, Lin Muyu unleashed demonic noise fist to control the direction of the demonic noise blade. At the same time, she gripped her sword with her right hand and let out a low grunt. Streaks of lightning crackled around her arm. Just as the stone beast was about to pounce on her, she abruptly threw out the burning prairie sword. Thunderous frenzy. With a heavy strike, half of the blade pierced into the stone beast's lower jaw, but it didn't seem to bleed. The stone beast's rock scales were at least a meter thick, so this strike didn't cause any serious damage. In the blink of an eye, the stone beast swung its sharp claws and pounced down. On its left arm, there were a total of 3 blade-like claws, and they rapidly slammed into the wall of Lin Muyu's gourd. With a pung sound, energy splashed in all directions. Lin Muyu also rapidly retreated a few steps, her face somewhat pale. With just one attack, the black tortoise shell showed signs of breaking. "You hold on." Qin Lei raised the thunder split blade and let out a violent roar as he rushed onto the stone beast's body. Both of his hands gripped the long blade, and the god-binding chains wrapped around the blade. A golden light flourished as he heavily struck down. Pang! Stone fragments flew everywhere, and the stone beast immediately let out an angry roar. A large hole had been opened on its back, and even some blood could be seen spurting out. Roar! The stone beast suddenly opened its mouth, as if it was going to swallow Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu was startled, and she hastily retreated with the falling star steps. She opened her right hand, and lightning controlled the burning prairie sword in the air. She suddenly lowered her arm, and the burning prairie sword suddenly struck down from above, carrying the power of a thunderous frenzy. A loud sound was heard as it bombarded the stone beast's upper jaw, and it immediately closed its wide-open mouth. Its entire head heavily smashed onto the wall of the gourd. Woo! Lin Muyu let out a miserable groan. The outermost layer of defense, the black tortoise shell, was finally broken. The blood and qi in her body surged, and she was unable to summon her true qi to condense the black tortoise shell again in a short period of time. She could only open her arm and spit out her true qi. The orange light of her martial spirit blossomed, and a gourd flower bloomed. Poochie! A mouthful of poisonous liquid fell onto the stone beast's forehead like an arrow, and rapidly penetrated and corroded it. However, the stone beast's skin was too thick, and there was nothing that could be done to it in a short period of time. Beautifully done, you! Qin Lei brandished the thunder-split blade, and streaks of lightning burst forth and fiercely struck the back of the stone beast. He was the most dangerous person. However, right at this moment, Tang Xiaoxi held the Fire Fox martial spirit in her hand and loudly said, "Big brother Qin Lei, be careful." What? As soon as Qin Lei turned around, he saw a black shadow flash over. Pang! That was the sweeping attack of the stone beast's tail. Under the violent and powerful attack, it immediately sent this commander of the Imperial Army flying, falling straight into the distant forest. However, Qin Lei's cultivation had after all already stepped into the heaven realm. His voice quickly came from there, "I'm fine. You have to hold on." Huff, 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 the stone beast snorted, and a bit of blood had already seeped into its pair of eyes. Its blood-red pupils stared fixedly at Lin Muyu, and both of its claws flew about. In an instant, it pounced on her several times, blasting the dragon scale wall to the point of almost collapsing. However, Lin Muyu did not have much of a way to deal with this big guy. After all, his martial spirit specialized in defense, and even the destructive power of the four-elemental imperial sword was far from being able to compare to Qin Lei, who had the support of the god-binding shackles. "Mu, be careful!" Tang Xiaoxi launched an attack from the flank, and the firefox cried out loudly. However, her penetrative power was too weak, and practically did not make the stone beast feel any pain, so it naturally ignored her. This angered Tang Xiaoxi to the point of whimpering. The feeling of not having any sense of existence made the proud princess she a little unable to bear it. The true qi in her body was becoming more and more unable to be quickly activated. Just as Lin Muyu was feeling anxious, rays of golden light suddenly appeared around her body, and Qin Yin's voice came from behind, "God-binding power." This was Qin Yin's martial spirit skill, and could also be considered as a support skill, increasing the target's attack power. "Attack you," she said while breathing rapidly. It seemed that releasing the God-binding power had already consumed a lot of her strength. When the God-binding power entered her body, Lin Muyu could clearly feel the surging power in her blood vessels, and a feeling that she had to spit it out was on the verge of bursting out. She lightly raised her arm, and the black tortoise shell actually condensed again. True qi surged around her body, and she grabbed the spinning demonic noise blade and threw it out again. At the same time, she lightly released her right hand, and the burning prairie's sword lightly flew up. Flames spouted out from her palm, and lingered around the burning prairie sword. The blade of the sword quickly spun, using fire to manipulate the sword. Furthermore, she used the true dragon essence fire this time. The dazzling purple flames lingered around the longsword, causing Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi to be a little shocked. They had never seen flames like this before. Dragon flames spiral break. She exerted force with both hands, and immediately the high-speed spinning burning prairie sword smashed into the stone beast's head like an invincible iron awl. The true dragon essence fire quickly melted the stone beast's scales, and with a bang, it blasted a large hole in the stone beast's head. Grayish-white brain matter could faintly be seen. Good heavens, this attack was really ruthless. But what shocked Lin Muyu was that the stone beast's vitality was too tenacious. It seemed to be completely fine even after its head had been blasted open. With a roar, it pounced forward, and with a swipe of its claws, it directly shattered the black tortoise shell. Lin Muyu raised her hand to grab the burning prairie sword, and hurriedly pressed her left hand against the blade to block the stone beast's next attack. It was also at this moment that a beautiful figure appeared beside him. Qin Yin carried a long sword and stood shoulder to shoulder with him. God-binding shackles surged around her. With a shout, the God-binding shackles slashed out together with the long sword. Pang! What a good Qin Yin! She actually relied on the tyrannical strength of the God-binding chains to slash back the stone beast's sharp claws. At this time, Qin Lei raised the thunder-split saber and charged over again. A slash landed on the stone beast's neck from midair, and stone fragments splashed everywhere. He loudly said, "Shao Yin Yu Shao Shi, all of you fall back. Let me do it." The stone beast was still roaring, but after being continuously slashed 7 or 8 times by Qin Lei, its roars became weaker and weaker. With a crack, its bones broke, and its entire head separated from its body. No matter how strong its vitality was, it was unable to continue fighting without a head. After all, it was a stone beast, not called Xing Tian. Huff, huff. The stone beast's head that fell to the ground was still breathing with all its might, while its body lay on the ground, continuously struggling frantically. F***C. Lin Muyu held the burning prairie sword with lingering fear in her heart. She turned around to look at Qin Yin, and asked with concern, "Are you all right?" Who would have thought that Qin Yin would also ask the same thing? The two of them spoke at the same time. In the next moment, Her Highness the Princess lowered her head with a flushed face. She didn't know what to say to get past this awkwardness. Luckily, Qin Lei was more straightforward. He leaped down from the stone beast's corpse, and said with a smile, "Luckily, Yu's defense is strong enough. Otherwise, we might be in danger." This time, it was really not easy to kill this 50-hundred-year stone beast without any injuries. "Your Highness, what are you still hesitating for? I remember that your God-binding chains only has 3 abilities, and none of them are defense type. Come, this stone beast's defense is so strong. If you can absorb the stone beast's defense type ability, it will definitely greatly increase your individual strength. Tang Xiaoxi also said with a smile, "That's right. Xiaoyin, hurry up and refine the beast spirit. Who knows, you might be able to successfully step into the heaven realm." Qin Yin was no longer embarrassed to the point of blushing. She took a step forward, and with a light chant, she summoned the god-binding chains. This golden chain was like a real dragon, coiling around the young lady's waist and between her twin peaks. It was like a guardian, but also like an attacker. It began to madly and greedily absorb and refine the stone beast's beast spirit. This stone beast's beast spirit could actually be refined by herself, but Lin Muyu didn't care. There were many spirit beasts in the dragon-seeking forest, so there was no hurry. Letting Qin Yin become stronger would be of great benefit to the entire adventurer team. Qin Yin closed her beautiful eyes, controlling the god-binding chains to enjoy this delicious meal. However, the stone beast's beast spirit was still very tenacious. No matter how hard Qin Yin tried, she was still unable to grasp the beast spirit's most essential part. Qin Yin also knew that this power contained the stone beast's most essential spiritual power, which was also the ability power. Therefore, she had to absorb this portion of the beast spirit. Unfortunately, this seemed to be too difficult. Not long after, Her Highness the Princess was already drenched in fragrant sweat. "I can't do it anymore," she suddenly said. Chapter 85. Do you need help? Lin Muyu sheathed his long sword and asked calmly from the side. Qin Lei was stunned. "You can help? As far as I know, the process of refining the beast spirit is not something that others can interfere with, right? Xiaoyin, if you really can't refine the skill, then don't force yourself, otherwise you will hurt your body." Tang Xiaoxi crossed her arms in front of her chest and said, "If Mu can help, then don't hesitate." Lin Muyu walked to Qin Yin's side and a faint fragrance of a young girl entered his nose. His heart couldn't help but sway, but he immediately reprimanded himself in his heart. "What am I thinking about, you bastard? Is this the time to let your imagination run wild? I can't keep thinking about petty things all day long. We must be honest and be a person who is free from vulgar interests. Lin Ji, you better remember, you are an honest and confident young man." Thinking of that, his face turned red. His palm opened slightly and his true qi surged. The treasured refining cauldron shrouded down in the form of energy and quickly enveloped Qin Yin and himself. But from Qin Lei and Tang Xiaoxi's point of view, the energy that Lin Muyu summoned was a kind of true qi energy condensed body, and they couldn't see the specific form of the treasured refining cauldron. Closing his eyes, the first layer of true fire inside the treasured refining cauldron started to burn, refining the last strand of beast spirit of the stone beast. Qin Yin also seemed to feel it as her long eyelashes lightly trembled, but she didn't dare to be distracted in the crucial process of refining the beast spirit. Lin Muyu said softly, "Your Highness doesn't need to be distracted. Concentrate on absorbing and leave the rest to me." Inside the treasured refining cauldron, the beast spirit of the stone beast was howling miserably as it was refined by the first layer of true fire. But this beast spirit was really too tenacious. It was still unable to be refined even after being refined for a full 5 minutes. Lin Muyu made up his mind and suddenly shouted, activating the second layer of flames of the treasured refining cauldron, "Extreme Fire." The so-called extreme fire was a flame that came from the sky and was very fierce. It was ranked second among the 18 layers of flames of the treasured refining cauldron. Although it was ranked lower, it was already very powerful at this time because Lin Muyu had only comprehended the third layer of flames. If the third layer of flames couldn't refine the beast spirit, then there was nothing he could do. Ao ao. Amidst the miserable howls, the extreme fire quickly devoured the beast spirit of the stone beast, refining it into bits and pieces of spiritual essence, which seeped into Qin Yin's body one by one and was absorbed by the princess. Lin Muyu heaved a sigh of relief and quickly removed the treasure refining cauldron. However, she noticed that both her and Qin Yin's bodies were emitting steam. It seemed like the temperature inside the treasure refining cauldron was not just for show. Qin Yin let out a breath. When she opened her eyes, Lin Muyu and Qin Lei were both stunned. At this time, the expression in Qin Yin's eyes was even more enchanting. Her gaze was deep and the strange expression was as beautiful as the shining stars. Moreover, her entire temperament seemed to have changed a little. It actually made Lin Muyu feel a kind of faint pressure. This was the sign of the great disparity between realms. Xiao Yin stepped into the heaven realm? Tang Xiaoxi asked with a light smile. Yes, Qin Yin smiled, raised her left hand and lightly exhaled. This time, what appeared was not true qi but pure white do qi. Once one stepped into the heaven realm, the aura in one's body would automatically change from true qi to do qi. This was a qualitative leap. In an instant, Qin Yin was extraordinarily happy. Her beautiful eyes looked deeply at Lin Muyu. You? Thank you very much. Lin Muyu cupped his fists and smiled. Serving your highness is my duty. After all, as a member of the temple, he was originally loyal to the imperial family. Although the little princess' attitude towards him was extremely good, Lin Muyu still maintained propriety. There was a difference in identity and status. Once he got carried away, then it might bring about a fatal disaster. This was also one of Lin Muyu's great characteristics. He could maintain wisdom and calmness at any time. Otherwise, it might be difficult for him to ascend to the martial god's throne in conquest. Your Highness, have you refined the stone beast's skill? Qin Lei asked at the side. Qin Yin nodded lightly, then summoned the god-binding chain's martial soul. She lightly exhaled her do qi and immediately, stone scales appeared around the golden chains of the god-binding chains. This was a defensive skill. It could protect herself from harm. Qin Lei clapped his hands and said with a smile, This time we did not come to the Dragon Forest in vain. Your Highness Yin, since you have already completed your training, why don't we return to Lanyan City as soon as possible? The Dragon Forest is too dangerous. Moreover, Commander Feng Jixing should still be at the edge of the Dragon Forest waiting for us to return. We have been out for a bit too long. However, Qin Yin frowned slightly, shook her head and said, No, my real purpose for coming out this time is to help you find the dragon's tomb. If Brother Qin Lei is in a hurry, then go back first. Qin Lei was given the cold shoulder and couldn't help but stare blankly, but he didn't take it to heart. He smiled and said, All right then, I promise to listen to you. This time I will listen to you. Let's go find the dragon's tomb together. Yes, that's more like it. Qin Yin's anger turned into joy. The few of them rested for a bit and recovered their true qi and physical strength before continuing on their journey. Before dusk, they found a suitable place to rest in the Dragon Forest. It was a very dry cave, and the weeds in the cave were very dry. Furthermore, the original owner was a 1,200-year-old spiritual bear, which was killed by Qin Lei with one slash. The spirit stone was taken away by Lin Muyu. A spirit stone that was over 1,000 years old was very good to be used to forge weapons, so it shouldn't be wasted. Jin Xiaotang of the Imperial Merchant Guild probably still didn't know that he was good at forging weapons. Otherwise, it would have definitely caused a ruckus again. The Imperial Merchant Guild didn't lack anything. The only thing it lacked was high-grade weapons. Those nobles, officials, and sons of rich families would wait in the Merchant Guild every day, waiting for someone who lacked money to auction a suitable weapon. Actually, over there, spirit-grade weapons were already very popular, and mysterious-grade weapons were even more popular. If he could forge a saint-grade weapon, perhaps the entire Imperial Merchant Guild would change. Qin Lei took a blanket from the back of the horse, and after laying it on the ground, he said, Your Highness, it's very tough for us in the wilderness, so this is the only way. You and Princess, she can sleep here tonight. You and I can sleep on the hay outside. Qin Yin smiled faintly. Thank you for your hard work, Brother Qin Lei. Alright, where's you? He's outside. I don't know what he's doing. Qin Yin lifted the hem of her skirt and walked out of the cave lightly, only to see Lin Muyu holding the burning prairie sword and quietly inspecting the terrain outside. His brows were tightly knitted, and the white robe behind him swayed slightly in the wind. He was very handsome. In an instant, Qin Yin's heart fluttered, and her heartbeat seemed to quicken. Although Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying, and the others were all handsome men, this Lin Muyu in front of her seemed to have an extra special temperament compared to them. But what am I thinking? Qin Yin stamped her little boots and vented her anger at herself, feeling both ashamed and angry. This princess was really arrogant and pampered. Lin Muyu raised her head and saw Qin Yin standing under the mountain rock with a red face. She couldn't help but ask with a smile, "Your Highness, what's wrong?" Qin Yin was stunned, and her face became even redder. Nothing, nothing? You've been patrolling outside for so long, what are you inspecting? Oh, I suspect that there's a spirit beast that's older, and it's of the fire attribute. Why do you say that? When I was training in the Seven Stars Forest with Chu and Xiao Shi, we also encountered this kind of terrain. Not a single blade of grass grew, and everything was withered. This means that there's a fire attribute spirit beast living nearby, and it's not young. Qin Yin was stunned. Then why is the spiritual bear that we just killed still living here? Logically speaking, that fire-type spirit beast should have swallowed the spiritual bear long ago. That's hard to say. The corners of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up, and she smiled. Perhaps that fire attribute spirit beast is just raising the spiritual bear like a pig. I see. Then what should we do? Don't worry, I'll be careful. If this spirit beast really comes to find trouble with us, we'll just kill it. It just so happens that Xiao Shi is about to step into the third heaven of the earth realm, and she needs a suitable beast spirit of the fire attribute spirit beast. If it dares to come, I'll be more than happy. Late at night, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were sleeping in each other's arms. The two of them were exhausted after a day of traveling. Qin Lei was holding the thunder split blade, and his tiger eyes were wide open as he looked at the rock at the top of the cave, standing guard 3 meters away from the two girls. As the commander of the Imperial Army, Qin Lei's greatest responsibility was to protect the heir to the empire. However, when Qin Lei turned around to look, his gaze fell upon Qin Yin's bright and clean face, and there seemed to be another kind of indescribable emotion in his eyes. He sighed, and the hand that was holding the thunder split blade tightened a little. Outside the cave, a bonfire swayed in the night wind. The late autumn night was already very cold, especially after the autumn rain, as if it was going to be winter soon. Lin Muyu held the burning prairie sword in her arms, and looked at the swaying light of the fire, her clear eyes filled with melancholy. He wondered how his father was doing. Was his old man still in good health? At the thought of this, Lin Muyu's eyes instantly became moist. She raised her head to look at the sky and murmured, "Father, brother, are you both well now? I miss you both, but I can't go back now. Brother, you must take good care of father, don't let him work so hard anymore. When I'm not here. Brother, you have to shoulder the entire Long Xian group." At this moment, a soft hissing sound was suddenly heard from afar, and it was accompanied by a scorching heat. It's finally here. As the owner of this area, it was finally time to hunt Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the other uninvited guests. Lin Muyu called out softly, "Brother Qin Lei, wake up His Highness and Xiao Shi, our guests are here." Qin Lei was startled, and turned around to look, only to find that Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had both woken up, and were looking at him with their beautiful eyes. "Is that fire spiritual beast here?" Tang Xiaoxi was slightly excited. Chapter 86. Hiss, hiss, flames lingered around the head of the huge beast. This was a huge beast that looked like a lizard. Its blood-red eyes stared greedily at the leaping bonfire. Wild beasts were naturally afraid of wildfire, so it seemed to have some fear towards bonfires. However, the handsome youth wearing a general's robe behind the bonfire made it salivate. If it did not swallow this person alive, this lizard would not be satisfied. Qin Lei carried his battle blade and walked out of the cave. He looked at the spirit beast hidden in the bushes from afar and smiled. There are 3 golden and 4 silver lines of fire on its head. It's a 340,000-year-old fire lizard. This kind of spirit beast is very common in the dragon-seeking forest. However, a 340,000-year-old spirit beast is very suitable for Xiaoxi to use for her breakthrough. Qin Yin hugged her cloak and walked out of the cave. Her elegant face looked even more enchanting under the moonlight. She smiled lightly and said, "A 340,000-year-old spirit beast. There's no need for me and Xiaoxi to take action anymore. You and brother Qin Lei quickly finish it off. After Xiaoxi has refined the beast spirit, we can still sleep for a while longer. Hurry, hurry." Qin Lei carried his thunder split blade and walked forward. His gaze was as if he was looking at a prey that had fallen into a trap. He smiled and said, If we don't leave the bonfire, we won't be able to lure it to attack. Let's go, the two of us will finish it off quickly." Alright. In reality, Lin Muyu did not think much of this fire lizard. When he and Chu Yao were hiding in the Seven Stars Forest, they had also killed a fire lizard. Although it was only 1,700 years old, at that time, his cultivation was still low. Now, it was completely different. He possessed the 4-elemental imperial sword and the true dragon primary fire. He did not need to care about this 340,000-year-old spirit beast at all. He raised his sword and rushed out, saying with a smile, "Big brother Qin Lei, let's see who can kill this fire lizard first." Qin Lei raised his blade and rushed forward, scolding with a smile, "You stinking brat, you didn't even say a word. You ran so fast, how could I catch up?" Hiss hiss, when the fire lizard saw the two approaching, it immediately spat out its tongue and quickly pounced over. Its movements were very agile, but it had underestimated the strength of the young man in front of it. Whoosh! The burning prairie sword sped over, wrapped in thick lightning. Lin Muyu had directly used the shocking thunder wild wave to greet it. Sparks flew in all directions. The fire lizard's fire breath was actually pierced through by the burning prairie sword. The sword light pierced through the lizard's upper jaw, leaving behind a bloody hole. Thankfully, it did not hit its brain. Otherwise, the fire lizard would have been killed on the spot. Lin Muyu raised her palm. Lightning chains soared into the sky as she controlled the burning prairie sword to attack from the sky. Roar! The fire lizard roared and attempted to counterattack, but it was caught off guard by Lin Muyu's demonic sound fist right in the eye area. As it retreated while screaming, its tail suddenly trembled. The burning prairie sword followed the wind and directly pierced through the fire lizard's tail, nailing it to the rock. This time, it couldn't even run away. Qin Lei laughed out loud. His figure swept across the sky, and he raised the thunder split blade. Streaks of lightning enshrouded the thunder split blade. This mighty attack must be Qin Lei's signature skill, right? Fierce thunder blade. With a pu sound, fresh blood splattered. Qin Lei's blade technique was too overbearing. He had actually chopped off the fire lizard's head from the middle. Not only that, his entire body was covered with a biting cold wind force. Suddenly, he held the blade in his hand and swept it horizontally as he shouted, "Dragon's Rush!" Blood splattered everywhere. This massacre scene was not suitable for children. The fire lizard was cut into pieces by Qin Lei's sweeping attack, and there was a faint dragon roar. Qin Lei must have the dragon force in his body, or else the destructive power shouldn't be so exaggerated. Pa! Lin Muyu grabbed the burning prairie sword that was flying over and said, "Big brother Qin Lei, don't randomly slash anymore. This fire lizard is a bloody mess. How is Xiaoxi going to refine the beast spirit later?" You're right to remind me." Qin Lei, the martial maniac, quickly put away the blade and said with a smile, "Princess Xi, you can come over and absorb the beast spirit. This 3,400 years old spirit beast should be enough for you to break through." Tang Xiaoxi looked at the bloodstains on the ground and was a little speechless. However, she still stepped on the blood of the spirit beast and released the fire fox martial soul to begin refining the beast spirit. Lin Muyu held onto the long sword and stood guard at the side. When Tang Xiaoxi reached the crucial moment, she released the artifact refining cauldron without saying a word. Immediately, flames rapidly revolved and enveloped the two of them. Qin Yin and Qin Lei didn't say anything, but they knew that Lin Muyu was helping Tang Xiaoxi refine the essence of the beast spirit. This process wasn't considered long. It was completed in less than 20 minutes. Phew! Lin Muyu heaved a sigh of relief and put away the artifact refining cauldron. Her eyes emitted a bright light as she looked at the barren fertile land and said with a smile, "Xiao Shi has already refined this fire lizard skill." Qin Yin laughed lightly. "Really?" Tang Xiaoxi also opened her beautiful eyes. Her pair of beautiful eyes were sparkling as she said with a smile, "It's all thanks to Mu's help. I feel that his power is helping me control the fire lizard's essence. Otherwise, with my power, I might not be able to suppress it." Qin Lei was greatly surprised and said, What method did you use to help His Highness and the princess refine the essence of the beast spirit? According to what I know, when refining the beast spirit, the chances of absorbing the skill is not more than 30%. How did you do it?" Lin Muyu rubbed her nose and said with a smile, "Some secrets can only belong to me alone. Big brother Qin Lei, don't ask any more. In any case, I won't harm you guys in this lifetime." Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. "All right then. If you isn't willing to say, then we won't ask any more. Let's go back and continue to rest for a while. In another day, we'll roughly be able to enter the dragon's tomb's domain. There are more and more spirit beasts in the surroundings. We have to be a bit more careful." Lin Muyu nodded. After the few of them had fallen asleep, he still hugged the burning prairie sword and stared blankly at the sky. The Milky Way was brilliant. Everyone said that one of the stars belonged to you. However, which star belonged to him? This piece of land was called the Shattered Cauldron Realm. The only human empire was called the Qin Empire. It was controlled by a group of people from the Qin family who possessed the bloodline of the true dragon. And what was the meaning of him coming here? But after experiencing so much, would he really not have any comprehension? Those nights, when he woke up from his nightmares, what was it for? He thought of Xiang, the woman who chose to die to protect him. Was she weak? No, she was actually very brave. He thought of Chu Feng. He spent his entire life protecting Chu Yao, but in the end, he died unjustly in the hands of vile people. Was he stupid? No, he was actually very persistent. He thought of Little Beansprout and Qin Xiling. These weak people were all fighting for their lives. Were they pitiful? No, they had already done their best. He thought of Zhang Wei. This unyielding man had now become a cripple. He thought of Tang Xiaoxi. The kind and pure Xiao Shi had completely disregarded all dangers for him. He thought of Qin Yin. This beautiful princess trusted and relied on him. He thought of Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and Chu Huaying. It seemed that unknowingly he had already found a reason to continue fighting in this world. At the break of dawn, a golden ray of light fell on Lin Muyu's face. It was unknown when he had fallen asleep, but he still held the prairie fire sword in his hands. His head was slightly tilted outwards, maintaining a vigilant posture. But in the end, he still fell asleep. Qin Yin carefully held the sword and knelt beside Lin Muyu. She tilted her head and looked at his sleeping face. She seemed to be interested, but she couldn't bear to wake him up. She knew that Lin Muyu actually didn't sleep for too long. He only slept after dawn. Even Qin Lei was snoring, but he didn't. He was awake the whole night. The late autumn morning was very cold. Tang Xiaoxi tightened her cloak and raised her head with a smile. Qin Yin made a gesture to lower her voice. She laughed softly and said, "Be quiet. Let him sleep a while more." Tang Xiaoxi smiled slightly. She opened her bag and found some cooked meat. Then, she carefully raised her hand and used the power of her Fire Fox martial spirit to reignite the bonfire. As she boiled water on the iron pot, she also sliced the cooked meat and threw it in. They couldn't eat good food in the wilderness, but to be able to drink a pot of boiling meat soup was already a kind of enjoyment. Accompanied by the zhi sound of boiling water, the aroma of meat filled the air. Lin Muyu couldn't help but sniff. His stomach was empty, and he was very hungry. But when he opened his eyes, he found Qin Yin looking at him with a smile. He immediately blushed and said, "Your Highness, are there bugs on my face?" "No." Qin Yin's face turned red. "You, get up and eat." Even though he only slept for a short while, Lin Muyu already felt the true energy in his veins fill up again. He had already returned to his peak state and could face any challenge. Tang Xiaoxi scooped a bowl of meat soup and gave it to him. After eating the soup and meat, he still felt that it wasn't enough, so he ate another bowl. This made Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin a bit embarrassed. They wanted him to eat more, but Lin Muyu and Qin Lei were both big eaters. In the end, the princess and the princess only ate half a bowl each. "Why don't you eat more?" Lin Muyu asked. "Could it be that you want to slim down?" Qin Yin didn't quite understand what slimming meant, so she said, "The women of the empire usually insist on eating only 50% full. That way they can maintain their beauty. The maids in the palace taught me this since I was young." Lin Muyu sniffled, thinking that Qin Yin's words were enough to shame many of the foodies in modern society. On the side, Qin Lei ate and drank to his heart's content. He raised the thunder split blade and said with a smile, "Today we can enter the dragon graveyard area. At least this is the area marked on the map. You, the next spirit beast's wild beast spirit, is yours." Lin Muyu said resentfully, "Then Big Brother Qin Lei must guarantee that you won't go crazy and randomly chop. At the very least, you must ensure that the spirit stone in the spirit beast's body is intact. Otherwise, you'll be like the fire lizard and even the spirit stone was destroyed by you." "I will." "You've reminded me. In reality, things like spirit stones could basically be bought with Jinin coins. Therefore, people of noble birth like Qin Yin, Qin Lei, and Tang Xiaoxi wouldn't care about spirit stones. After all, spirit stones could only store 50% of a spirit beast's spiritual power. The wild beast spirit, on the other hand, could store 100% of the spiritual power. That was the cultivation treasure that Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others fancied. Lin Muyu was different. To her, spirit stones were equivalent to a weapon's guardian beast soul. They were all money. She was a commoner in this world and extremely poor. She had to be frugal, diligent, humble, cautious, meticulous, far-sighted, virtuous, don't bully the young for being poor, strengthen the divine temple's sparring masters, and so on. Chapter 87. On the fourth day after entering the dragon-seeking forest, the terrain became more and more dangerous, to the extent that it was already impossible to pass through on horseback. They could only lead the war horses and walk step by step through the winding mountains. The road had long been cut off, so they could only rely on Lin Muyu and Qin Lei to wield their weapons in front to open up a path. On this day, they once again encountered 3 spirit beasts that were over 2,000 years old. They were all taken care of one by one, but they still did not encounter any spirit beast that Lin Muyu was interested in. Since they wanted to step into the heaven realm, then they must have a spirit beast with a long lifespan as a sacrifice. The surrounding plants became fewer and fewer. In the blink of an eye, the forest in front was already bare. A formless aura of death enveloped the surroundings. Qin Lei could not help but frown. "We seem to have already entered the dragon's tomb area. This strong aura of death is enough to make normal people unable to survive. Really? Everyone wait a moment." Lin Muyu suddenly stopped everyone, then took out a few small bottles of medicine and said, "Everyone drink 1 bottle." "What is this?" Qin Yin asked curiously as she held the medicine. "Concentration powder." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "To be more specific, it is a first-grade concentration powder, a level 6 medicine. It can keep our minds clear, making us immune to all poisons. The aura of death in the dragon's tomb should also not be able to infect our bodies. Concentration powder is only a type of resistance medicine. It must be consumed before the poison takes effect. The effect can last for 3 days. It is up to you whether you want to drink it or not." As he spoke, he raised his head and drank a bottle of concentration powder. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and drank it as well. Qin Yin pulled out the cork and sniffed it. There was a fresh smell and she drank it in 1 gulp as well. Qin Lei was the last person to drink it. As the commander of the Imperial Army, he had to be on guard. Although he was already quite familiar with Lin Muyu, he still had to be on guard. He could only drink it when he saw that Lin Muyu and the others were fine. The concentration powder turned into a cool feeling and flowed through her body. Qin Yin could not help but smile in surprise. as expected of a first-grade medicine. This feeling is really different. Tang Xiaoxi smiled lightly. Let's go. Yes, yes. Qin Lei carried the thunder-split saber and said, You walk in front and open up the path. I'll bring up the rear. Everyone be careful. We're about to enter the Dragon Tombs area. Lin Muyu nodded. She knew that Qin Lei still didn't have 100% trust in her, but this couldn't be blamed on him. Clang. He unsheathed the burning prairie sword and slowly exhaled his true qi. Immediately, the blade of the sword turned red. He urged his horse forward slowly, following the path of the canyon and entering the range of the dragon's tomb. Looking up, he saw that the cliff was extremely steep, forming a thin line above his head. There was even the cawing of crows, making him feel uneasy. On the ground, he could even see pieces of white bones. They were not dragon bones, but human bones. Someone had been here before, and they were already dead. Qin Yin held onto her treasured sword and carefully looked around. Her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with vigilance. The cold wind blew, causing the gold-trimmed dark blue cloak behind her to slowly flutter. Tang Xiaoxi followed closely behind Qin Yin. The firefox was already squatting on her shoulder, ready to attack at any time. Meanwhile, Qin Lei was at the back. Golden iron chains appeared around the thunder-split saber, and the god-binding chains were ready to be unleashed at any time. Smoke lingered in front of them. Very soon, the war horse let out a neigh and became weak and powerless. It was already unable to bear the weight of its rider. Lin Muyu hurriedly got off the horse and said, We can't go on. The miasma here is too heavy. The war horse can't go in. Let's just tie it here. We'll go in. Qin Yin and the others nodded. They got off their horses one by one and walked forward on foot. After walking to the end of the canyon, there was a completely different scene inside. There wasn't much of a deathly aura within the dragon's tomb. Instead, it was full of spring, and hundreds of flowers were in full bloom. A clear river flowed from the canyon, and the roars of wild beasts could be heard from afar. It formed a stark contrast with the deathly aura outside. However, there was one thing that hadn't changed. They could still see piles of bones along the way. Just what kind of thing killed these people? Tang Xiaoxi was a bit flabbergasted. She opened her right hand, and the fiery red ropes that lingered around her wrist loosened one by one. In the blink of an eye, it became a long whip with flames lingering around it. This was Tang Xiaoxi's weapon, the smelting flame whip. It was the treasure passed down from her grandfather, Duke Songlon. Lin Muyu looked at it silently for a while. She pointed at the skull of a skeleton and said, His skull has been pierced through, but it doesn't look like it was pierced by a sword or a spear. The wound is too small. It's not even as thick as a finger. Then what could it be? Qin Lei was a bit speechless. Let's continue walking. Everyone be careful. With a wung sound, Lin Muyu summoned the martial spirit gourd. With a bit of force, the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall were both successfully activated. She carried the burning prairie sword and walked at the very front. All of a sudden, a so-so sound came from the ground. A black vine disappeared in a flash, as if it had never appeared before. What was that? Lin Muyu quickly rushed over and directly used the imperial sword technique from afar. The long sword blasted open the ground with a pung sound. The soil and grass flew up, but the vine was nowhere to be seen. To the right, be careful. Qin Lei shouted loudly. A vine pierced over with a so sound. It was like an arrow that left the bough and went straight for Qin Yin's face. There really was something, and it was of the plant type. Pang! Qin Lei went berserk. The thunder-split blade fell down like lightning and chopped the vine into pieces. He extended his hand and pointed to the south and said, This spirit beast's main body is over there. You go over. Lin Muyu did not care so much. The enemy was in the light, and she was in the dark. This was the worst situation. Tang Xiaoxi was exceptionally smart. She did not need anyone to say anything and immediately used the firefox's skill attack. With a huang sound, a flame rushed out and burned all the bushes in front of her into ashes. Lin Muyu quickly passed by, and with a raise of her finger, She controlled the long sword in the air to sweep across the ground. The sword Qi strangled through, and all the remaining bushes were turned into dust. Behind the bushes, the main body of the sneak attacker was finally seen. It was impressively a big black tree. Furthermore, the trunk and branches of this tree were all twisting. Every branch was like an arm, and when it twisted, it made people's hair stand on end. Qin Yin could not help but squint her beautiful eyes and said, "What the hell is this?" Qin Lei was experienced and knowledgeable. He felt a chill in his heart and said, "It's the Forbidden Mother Tree. Furthermore, it's the Forbidden Mother Tree from 700 years ago. Be careful, this kind of Forbidden Mother Tree's arms can extend and retract, and its attack power is shocking. Furthermore, the Forbidden Mother Tree only appears in places where there are few people. Its name comes from the Forbidden Mother in the legends. It has countless arms, and it is very terrifying. Everyone be careful. Let's go." Lin Muyu was already rushing forward, and the wall of the calabash formed a perfect shield to protect him. The Forbidden Mother Tree's hundreds of arms turned into thorny vines that rammed into the mystic tortoise shell. They shattered inch by inch, and it also caused his blood and qi to churn, and he was almost injured. As he rushed forward, he opened his hands, and flames lingered around his arms. He used the fire sword to control the prairie fire sword, and it turned into beams of sword qi that killed around the Forbidden Mother Tree. Kacha, one after another, the Forbidden Mother Tree's arms were cut off, and green juice splashed out. Qin Lei also attacked. The thunder-split blade turned into streaks of lightning that wreaked havoc around the Forbidden Mother Tree. At the same time, he cut off the vines, and the god-binding chains danced around him to protect him, preventing the Forbidden Mother Tree's thorny vines from hitting him. Qin Yin gritted her teeth, and with a shout, she attacked. The god-binding chains broke out of the ground, and turned into a golden chain that smashed towards the Forbidden Mother Tree's main body. But who would have thought that the Forbidden Mother Tree could actually move? The roots quickly moved underground, and cleverly dodged Qin Yin's martial soul attack. Tang Xiaoxi took out her firefox and shouted, "Use fire attack." Lin Muyu cut off at least 1,000 Forbidden Mother Tree's arms, but she realized that there were more and more of them, and they were quickly surrounded by the Forbidden Mother Tree's vines. She couldn't help but shout, "What's going on? The more I cut, the more there are." "You, be careful, the Forbidden Mother Tree's vines can regenerate." Only then did he see that the Forbidden Mother Tree's branches were constantly flowing with green juice, and new vines were quickly growing. No wonder they couldn't be cut off. The countless vines in the surroundings suddenly retracted, and quickly surrounded Lin Muyu. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free, and Tang Xiaoxi's flame attack didn't have much effect in a short period of time. The Forbidden Mother Tree was actually shouting, as though it was mocking him, and countless vines turned into thorny vines that pierced towards him. "You!" Qin Lei roared, and quickly raised the thunder-split blade. Countless lightning rays rose up, and ruthlessly smashed onto the Forbidden Mother Tree's main trunk. Pang! Green juice splashed out, but the Forbidden Mother Tree was still regenerating. This thing's life force was not ordinary. Lin Muyu was surrounded by millions of vines, and couldn't break out. He could only brandish his iron fists to disperse the vines that were about to attack him. The walls of the gourd could no longer withstand it, and the mystic tortoise shell and dragon scale wall collapsed one after another. Pang! After a ray of golden light, Qin Yin's treasured sword smashed onto the tree trunk with the power of the god-binding chains. She flew up to attack, and a huge gap was blasted open on the tree trunk. She saw a blood-red heart-like thing pulsating, and she was astonished. "What is that?" Qin Lei said loudly, "It's the tree spirit. Destroying it will destroy the Forbidden Mother Tree." Just as Qin Yin was planning to follow up with another slash, a cluster of vines suddenly attacked from the right and smashed her away. Qin Lei hurriedly went to save her, but his leg was suddenly pierced by the thorny vines. Blood gushed out like a fountain, and he lost his ability to fight for a moment. Tang Xiaoxi was also entangled by hundreds of vines, and she could only protect herself. Lin Muyu saw everything clearly from the cage. The true dragon essence fire surged in his palm, and he controlled the sword through the air. The prairie fire sword instantly spun at high speed, dragon flames spiral break. Pang! The spiral impact from the outside directly scattered the vines. He leaped out and held the longsword. With a violent shout, he roared in his heart, "7 luminaries profound energy, come out." This was the first time he called out the 7 luminaries profound energy on his own. Immediately, a vigorous force surged in his high, but there seemed to be another kind of power that was restraining the 7 luminaries profound energy, not allowing him to call it out forcefully. But this couldn't stop him. Lin Muyu quickly took out the artifact refining cauldron and launched the earth fire in the air to burn the power that was trying to resist him. He shouted in a low voice, "Do you still want to struggle? Bastard!" As the strength of the 7 luminaries' profound energy rapidly surged into his arm and poured into the longsword. Suddenly, a strike that changed the color of heaven and earth fell on the tree spirit from the sky, and the fiery light instantly engulfed everything, chaotic luminary plus true dragon primary fire. Chapter 88. Boom! The raging flames swallowed the tree trunk along with the tree spirit, turning it into a pile of burning ashes. The first level of the 7 planets' profound energy combined with the true dragon primordial fire indeed had unimaginable destructive power. Even Lin Muyu was shocked by the power of his attack. He was only a 3rd level Earth Realm cultivator, but the power of this attack was much stronger than the Heaven Realm's Qin Yin, Qin Lei, and the others. The moment the tree spirit turned into ashes, the entire Forbidden Mother Tree also lost its life force. The fluffy tree suddenly collapsed, turning into a pile of soft dead matter, and the sap that symbolized life flowed. Qin Yin let out a miserable groan in the grass not far away. Lin Muyu rushed over and helped her up. "Your Highness, are you all right?" Qin Yin's shoulder was injured, and fresh blood soaked through her clothes. It was obvious that the attack from the vine was too strong, and Qin Yin didn't defend well. Quickly taking out a bottle of healing medicine and passing it to Tang Xiaoxi, Lin Muyu said, "Heal your Highness, I'll go see Big Brother Qin Lei." But when she arrived at Qin Lei's side, she saw Qin Lei sitting on a rock at the side with one leg crossed. He clenched his teeth and pulled out the thorny vine from his leg. Fresh blood flowed out, but he did not make a single sound. This Qin Lei was indeed a man of iron bones. Lin Muyu passed over a bottle of healing medicine and said, "Big Brother Qin Lei, this is a high-quality healing medicine. Hurry up and use it. This kind of healing medicine can repair injured tissues at the fastest speed and allow you to recover quickly." "And, thank you." Qin Lei took the medicine and tore the clothes on his leg, pouring the medicine on the wound. At the same time, he curled his lips and said with a smile, "This Forbidden Mother Tree is a 7,000-year-old spirit beast. If you like it, this beast spirit is yours. I haven't cultivated to the level of advancement yet, so using this beast spirit is a waste." Lin Muyu smiled happily. "Then it would be impolite of me to refuse? Okay, go." He came to the side of the Forbidden Mother Tree's corpse and quickly summoned the martial spirit gourd. The orange gourd immediately sensed the rich spirit energy and greedily absorbed it. Furthermore, Lin Muyu automatically opened the artifact refining cauldron's domain and quickly refined the beast spirit. Squeak! After refining for nearly 30 minutes, the voice of the Forbidden Mother Tree came from within the beast spirit. It was resisting as if it was unwilling to become a sacrifice for the gourd. However, its resistance was a little powerless. Lin Muyu forcefully activated the 3rd level of the furnace, the earth fire, and quickly refined the essence of the beast spirit. Buzz! After the gourd was full of energy, it flickered. After absorbing the beast spirit of the Forbidden Mother Tree, the color of the gourd changed from orange to indigo. It was very beautiful. It had also absorbed the Forbidden Mother Tree's skill, Revival, which could greatly increase the recovery rate of life. Lin Muyu could even feel the vitality in her blood. The wound on her shoulder felt numb and itchy, as if the wound was slowly healing itself. Have you refined the skill?" Qin Lei asked. He nodded his head. The Forbidden Mother Tree's skill seems to be rebirth, and I refined it into revival. I'm afraid my recovery speed will be surprisingly fast in the future. Congratulations. Qin Lei held onto the thunder-split blade and said with a smile, I never thought that a Forbidden Mother Tree would actually injure the three of us. Only Xiaoxi is not injured at all. Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red. That's probably because I hid further away? Lin Muyu said happily, this is a good thing. Xiaoxi, your cultivation is the lowest among us. Only by hiding further away can we focus on fighting. That's how it should be. Tang Xiaoxi pouted her lips, but I also have the dream of becoming a strong ranker. Being with a group of abnormally strong fellows like you has dealt a huge blow to my confidence. Qin Yin stood up and said with a smile, let's find a place to rest for a while, then go look for the dragon bones? Qin Lei said, since we've entered the dragon's tomb, then there's no need to be too anxious. We're all injured. I suggest that we rest for a night to recuperate and enter the depths of the dragon's tomb tomorrow. How about it? Lin Muyu nodded her head. Agreed. All right. The two beauties also nodded their heads one after another. After setting up camp by the side of the stream, Lin Muyu found some hay and made it into a big bed. After that, she found some firewood. Tang Xiaoxi fetched some water to cook, while Qin Yin bandaged her own wounds and asked with a smile, your aura has already changed. Did you step into the heaven realm after refining the beast spirit? Lin Muyu suppressed the ecstasy at the bottom of her heart and lightly opened her palm. Immediately, she spat out milky white do qi instead of innate qi. This do qi merged with the lightning elemental sprite in the air and evolved into the power of lightning with crackling sounds. Furthermore, it was a power of lightning that was even stronger than before. After stepping into the heaven realm, the characteristics of his power had already changed. The result of innate qi turning into do qi was that the destructive power of the 4 elemental imperial swords and the true dragon primary fire had also increased by a large margin. How do you feel now? Qin Yin asked with a smile. Lin Muyu took a deep breath, raised her head to look at the starry sky and said, I have a feeling that I can already be considered as an expert now. Your Highness Yin, please don't laugh at me. However, Qin Yin couldn't help but burst into laughter and said, you have always been an expert. Moreover, you are a gold star sparring master of the sanctum. This kind of status in the empire has always been outstanding. Haven't you realized it yourself? Lin Muyu smiled and sat beside Qin Yin. Listening to the babbling of the stream, she said, Your Highness, how many experts do you think there are in this land? More than ours. Qin Yin was stunned. She looked at the vast forest in the distance with some fascination and said with a smile, I don't know about this, but as far as I know, there are only a few sanctuary-level experts. As for the god-level experts, it seems that there are only 2 of them in the entire continent. Moreover, they have been in seclusion for many years. Actually, there used to be quite a number of god-level and sanctuary-level experts on the continent. However, after a battle in Lingdong hundreds of years ago, these people seem to have all disappeared. Lin Muyu was surprised. Your Highness, can you tell me in detail? I don't know the specific situation at that time. These things can only be known from ancient books, and it is difficult to distinguish the truth from the falsehood. However, there used to be quite a number of god-level experts on the continent, such as my ancestor, Qin Yi, the founding emperor of the Qin Empire. He was a god-level expert who had cultivated to the pinnacle of cultivation. However, they all suddenly disappeared hundreds of years ago. No one knows where they went. The most widespread rumor is that they all ascended to the heavenly realm and went to another plane. As she said that, Qin Yin moved her red lips and smiled with great yearning. Actually, I am also looking forward to the day I can ascend to the heavenly realm and prove the heavenly Tao. Lin Muyu naturally didn't dare to say that Qin Yi had already died, but the shock in her heart was very strong. Could it be that Qin Yi had led hundreds of experts from the human world to chase after the 7 luminaries demon emperor hundreds of years ago, and in the end, when she transmigrated here, she coincidentally transmigrated to the 18 levels of purgatory and saw the scene of them and the 7 luminaries demon emperor both suffering great losses? Looking at Qin Yin's beautiful face under the moonlight, Lin Muyu couldn't bear to tell her that these god-level experts were all dead, so she grinned and said, I also look up to Xiaoyao who went to the heavenly realm. That's right. Qin Yin said with a smile. It's just that we have to live in the present. What I have to do is to inherit the empire, and what you have to do is to cultivate hard and become a great expert to protect the empire, right? That's right. After eating dinner and cultivating for a while, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi went to bed early. As for Lin Muyu and Qin Lei, after discussing for a while, he would keep watch for the first half of the night, while Qin Lei would keep watch for the second half of the night. When it was the second half of the night, they laid down and could finally rest for a while. Closing their eyes, they quickly fell asleep. After an unknown period of time, a ruthless voice suddenly sounded beside their ears, "Stinking brat." In the dream, a black figure appeared in the chaotic space. Lin Muyu stood under a ray of sunlight and reached out to pull out the burning prairie sword, but she realized that there was nothing beside her. The shadow in the darkness got closer and closer. She couldn't see its face, but Lin Muyu knew who it was, Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor. "You're just a ghost, what else do you want?" Haha. The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor's expression was very sinister as he said angrily, "Brat, you live in your body. Do you think you can steal my Seven Luminaries' profound energy? Dream on." With that said, the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor rushed over crazily, holding countless stars in his hands, and shouted, "Go to hell, Seven Luminaries Star Transformation." But Lin Muyu suddenly woke up from the dream, only to realize that it was a dream, but it didn't seem to be a complete dream. It was too real. He could feel the irresistible sharpness of the Seven Luminaries' star transformation. "Morning, Mu." At the side, Tang Xiaoxi was cooking breakfast. She smiled and said, "Eat more later, we'll try to find the dragon tendon vine in the morning." Qin Yin was more attentive and asked, "Did you have a nightmare?" "I guess so." He smiled slightly, shook his head and said, "Maybe I was too tired during the day." After breakfast, the four of them continued to explore the depths of the forest. The beautiful fire fox scurried back and forth on Tang Xiaoxi's shoulder, looking around anxiously, occasionally letting out sharp whines. Tang Xiaoxi was a little surprised. "What's wrong?" The fire fox couldn't speak, so it continued to whine in a certain direction. Tang Xiaoxi squinted her beautiful eyes and smiled. "I guess that the dragon bones we can find should be in that direction. Let's go." Since no one knew where to find the dragon bones, listening to the fire fox's directions seemed to be a good choice, so the group of people followed the fire fox's directions. After traveling for a few hours, the moment they crossed a small hill, Tang Xiaoxi was instantly stunned. Wow! Lin Muyu took a few quick steps and also saw a shocking scene. In the huge valley, there was a long body lying down. It looked like a dragon, but it wasn't a five-clawed true dragon. Instead, it was a land dragon, but it could also be called a dragon. Found it. He rushed down the hill happily and jumped on the dragon's skeleton, only to see a bunch of green tree vines growing out of the spine, enshrouded in a faint dragon aura. He could not help but laugh. "Dragon tendon vine. We found the dragon tendon vine." But at this moment, an invisible aura spread out behind him. Tang Xiaoxi's face turned cold and she hurriedly shouted, "Mu, be careful." Whoosh! The cold air spread out quickly, blowing the dragon tendon vine and causing it to whistle. For a moment, Lin Muyu was unable to move, as if her whole body was being controlled by the domain pressure, unable to move. Finally, the one who should come had come. Chapter 89. In the air, a gray-robed elder held a metal staff in his hand. His eyes were filled with ferocity as he stared straight at Lin Muyu. Layers of invisible qi shrouded Lin Muyu, making it impossible for her to move. This elder was even able to stay in the air for a long time as if he was a celestial being. Lin Muyu desperately resisted the opponent's power. She raised all the fighting energy in her body to its peak, causing the white battle robe behind her to flutter in the air. Suddenly, she opened her left palm and the power of thunder emerged. She pulled the Burning Prairie sword out of its scabbard. The moment the Burning Prairie sword was pulled out of its scabbard, it created an air current and tore a crack in the opponent's chi net. Rustle, leaping nearly 10 meters away from the opponent's grip, Lin Muyu felt as if all the bones in her body were about to be torn apart. She turned around and looked at the elder in the air. Her eyes were stern as she said, "You are the one who crushed Zhang Weilong's tendons?" The person smiled. His eyes were full of calmness, as if the young man in front of him was already a dead man and would not pose any threat to him. "That's right, it's me. I am Ashen Crane. Greetings to your Highness Qin Yin, young prince and princess Shi." Qin Lei raised his head and looked at the sky. He tightened his grip on the thunder-split blade and said, "I've heard of your name, Senior Pale Crane. You're an ancestor of the Empire, but why did you hurt Zhang Wei? He is an instructor of the Divine Temple, a general of the Empire." Song Bai has sneered. The Divine Marquis is the imperial advisor and has made countless contributions in the Battle of Liaobei. If not for the Marquis's contributions, would the Qin family have the world today? Now that the world is at peace, a small Divine Temple instructor dares to offend the Divine Marquis residents. Is he bullying the Divine Marquis residents? I, Song Baihe, am indebted to the Marquis residents. Making an enemy of the Divine Marquis residents is making an enemy of me. Qin Yin was startled. She had already guessed most of it. She leaped onto the dragon bones and stood beside Lin Muyu. The cold wind blew and the family cloak behind her gently fluttered. "Then what is the purpose of Senior's visit today?" The Pale Crane threw his head back and laughed. "There are two people who have offended the Divine Marquis residents. One is Zhang Wei, and the other is this criminal Lin Muyu who has changed his name to Lin Ji. Today I will show my loyalty to the Empire. I will kill this criminal and bring his head back to Lanyan City. Your Highness, please step aside. Don't hinder this old man from killing this audacious brat." However, Qin Yin abruptly spread her arms, her beautiful face filled with determination. "Senior, you was wrongly accused for killing someone in Silver Fir City. I've already asked my royal father to pardon him, so there's no need for you to worry." "Really?" Song Baihe's expression turned cold as he sneered. "Your Highness, you're the only legitimate heir of the great Qin Empire, and you're also the future and hope of the clan. However, Princess Qin Yin accidentally dies in the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. Do you think anyone would know that I'm the one who did it? Her Highness Qin Yin and young Duke Qin Lei, the two heirs of the clan who have awakened the god-binding chains, both die in the dragon-seeking forest. Who has the highest chance to become the next emperor?" Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. She held the Burning Prairie sword horizontally in front of Qin Yin and growled, "Song Baihe, your target is me. Don't vent your anger on Her Highness Yin." Qin Yin's voice was very gentle. "You? Can't you see? The Pale Crane came here with no intention of letting any of us leave alive." Qin Lei gripped the thunder-splitting blade tightly, his eyes filled with anger. "Song Baihe, you despicable person. Do you know what you are doing? You are betraying the Empire." "So what if I betray the Empire?" Song Baihe sneered. "If the Qin family can do it, then so can others. What's the point of saying so much? None of you will live today." Buzz. As the other party was speaking, Lin Muyu's martial soul had already been activated. The Burning Prairie sword turned into a flash of lightning and attacked the Pale Crane's abdomen. This style was completed in the blink of an eye. It was shockingly fast. However, the other party was a sacred-level expert after all. Song Baihe raised his metal staff fearlessly and waved it suddenly. With a bang, the staff collided and actually forced the shocking Thunder Wild Wave's attack back. The Burning Prairie sword spun rapidly in the air and fell into the distance. "Go!" Lin Muyu roared angrily. She opened her left hand and produced streaks of lightning to absorb the Burning Prairie sword. Her right hand shook from her waist and took out 4 flying daggers. With a shwa 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 sound, she threw them out continuously. They turned into streaks of cold light. At the same time, on the other side, Qin Lei raised the thunder-splitting blade that was flickering with lightning and attacked. A few golden god-binding chains wrapped around his body. Song Baihe landed on the dragon bones and laughed loudly. Suddenly, a fiery light rose from his body and a fiery red staff came out of his body. It was his tool martial soul, the Netherfire Staff. It was an extremely powerful second-grade martial soul. Holding the metal staff in one hand and the Netherfire Staff in the other, Song Baihe laughed loudly and said, "Interesting, interesting. The Qin family's god-binding chains and a mediocre green gourd martial soul. I want to see how far you can struggle." Pang! The Netherfire Staff smashed onto the wall of the gourd with a dull thud. Immediately, the black tortoise shell was shattered and a heavy vibration was felt from the dragon scale wall. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu grabbed the burning prairie sword and leaped up without a care. She slashed down with the sword as one. In the midst of his laughter, Song Baihe's Netherfire Staff struck out again. A strong do chi exploded and sent Lin Muyu flying with the sword. Lin Muyu had already suffered internal injuries. At the same time, the metal staff drew an arc in the air and with a peng, it blasted away Qin Lei's thunder-splitting blade. The killing intent in Song Baihe's eyes exploded and he suddenly rushed forward. Pooh! When Qin Lei lowered his head to look, he realized that the sharp end of the metal staff had already pierced into his abdomen. Fresh blood was flowing out. "Young prince, don't blame me." As he spoke, Song Baihe's do chi suddenly spat out. The sharp end of the long staff immediately swirled with streams of biting cold do chi. It looked like Qin Lei's internal organs were about to be completely crushed. At this moment, a cold wind attacked from the back of his head. It was Qin Yin's sharp sword. Song Baihe hurriedly dodged to the side. However, he did not expect Qin Yin's graceful figure to bypass his arm like a dragon. She opened her palm and the power of the golden god-binding chains exploded in front of Song Baihe's chest. Peng! Golden light shot out in all directions. This attack was unable to severely injure Song Baihe because the do chi protecting his body was too thick. There was a great disparity in strength between the two. No matter how strong Qin Yin's god-binding chains were, it was unable to truly injure him. "You're courting death." Song Baihe suddenly waved the Netherfire rod in his left hand, heavily bombarding the god-binding chain's defense in front of Qin Yin's chest. In an instant, the god-binding chains were shattered. Qin Yin retreated several steps, her face pale as she knelt on the dragon bones. Behind her, Tang Xiaoxi's fire fox opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of raging flames. Song Baihe hurriedly waved his metal staff to disperse the flames. The Seven Seas Tang Sek's raging flame martial soul was not easy to deal with. "GG," the fire fox on Tang Xiaoxi's shoulder shouted crazily, as if it was facing a great enemy. "Xiao Yin." Just as Tang Xiaoxi was about to rush forward, she saw Qin Yin suddenly wave her hand behind her. Do chi rippled out, attacking Tang Xiaoxi until she retreated several steps. She did not allow Xiao Shi to save her. On the ground, Qin Lei's abdomen had been injured, but he still held the thunder-splitting blade. He roused the do chi in his body, causing streaks of lightning to ripple along the grass. He wanted to continue fighting with his life, but at this moment, a black shadow flashed past. With a poochie sound, Song Baihe's metal staff pierced through Qin Lei's chest, directly nailing him to a huge dragon bone. "Quietly wait for your death, little prince. This is the best ending for you." Song Baihe laughed coldly. Carrying the Netherfire rod, he walked step by step towards Qin Yin. His eyes carried a strong sense of pride as he laughed loudly. "Your Highness, if you did not leave the city, under the protection of hundreds of royal guards, who in this world could kill you? But you just had to come here to seek death. Don't blame this old man." The do chi in Qin Yin's body had already been disrupted by the Netherfire rod. She knelt there and raised her head to look at Song Baihe, but there was not a trace of fear on her face. Shwa! Just as Song Baihe raised the Netherfire rod, a flash of lightning suddenly flashed from the side. It was the burning prairie sword wrapped in lightning. Again! Song Baihe suddenly knocked away the long sword, but just as the burning prairie sword was spinning around, it was grabbed by a hand. Lin Muyu roared, and the indigo light of his martial soul shone brightly. The entire dragon bones were trembling, and gourd vines grew out from the dragon bones and surged towards Songbaiha. It was the root entanglement skill. His figure blended into the sword light, and the sacred Do Chi caused his battle robe to flutter. Lin Muyu seemed to have concentrated all his strength into the longsword, and streams of true dragon essence fire surrounded the longsword. His body was in midair, and the longsword flipped rapidly. This was already his strongest attack, Dragon Flame's spiral break. Songbaiha squinted his eyes. He could feel the sharpness of this move, and couldn't help but exclaim, "Good lad, you do have some skills. No wonder old man Lei Hong thinks so highly of you." As he spoke, Songbaiha suddenly merged the netherfire rod into a ball of fire in front of his chest, and shouted, "Can this imperial sword technique of yours break my netherfire shield?" The spiral break that Lin Muyu gathered all the strength in his body struck the opponent's martial soul, and the flames scattered in all directions. The collision of the Do Chi formed an extremely cold shockwave, and the impact was so strong that it uprooted the nearby small trees, and some of the larger trees were also broken. Qin Yin knelt there, holding onto the dragon bones. She raised her head, and her beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu's swaying figure in the wind. Streams of blood flowed down her pure white temple cloak. Her eyes were filled with tears. The dragon flame spiral break was still dispersed, and the burning prairie sword was sent flying into the grass 100 meters away. Lin Muyu didn't even have the strength to use the power of the imperial sword technique to control the long sword to fly back. "Is this your limit?" Songbaiha sneered, and slowly walked forward. He raised his right palm, and his fingers formed an arrow, and pierced into Lin Muyu's chest. He laughed loudly. "I will let you die a worse death than Zhang Wei, ha, you stinking brat." Songbaiha's fingers pierced into Lin Muyu's chest inch by inch, and hot blood flowed down, splashing onto the pale dragon bones. However, Lin Muyu still stood there, not moving an inch. "Why didn't you dodge?" Songbaiha sneered. Lin Muyu's eyes were clear, and because of the pain, her voice trembled slightly. "Her Highness came to the dragon tomb for me. If you must kill her, then kill me first. Don't let me see her die for me with my own eyes." Chapter 90. Come out now." The pain in his chest seemed to have disappeared, but Lin Muyu roared angrily in his Yi-Hai. At this moment, he really needed this power. Without the 7 luminaries' profound energy, how could he reverse the situation in front of him? Suddenly, a powerful force surged into his right arm. He could faintly feel the pain of all living beings. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth and raised his right arm, punching by his chest. Chaos of all life. Bam! Fighting energy burst out. With just one blow, Baihe's protective fighting energy was shattered. He looked at Lin Muyu with a pale face. What kind of power is this?" Lin Muyu did not speak. He endured the pain in his chest and continued to roar in his heart, "Leave the second stage to me. Hurry, leave the second stage to me." In his Yi-Hai, the black soul laughed loudly. "You want to use my power? Dream on, you little brat." Weapon Refining Cauldron. Lin Muyu let out a furious roar. The artifact refining cauldron appeared in her sea of mind and unleashed the 3rd layer fire refining cauldron, the earth fire, which burned the 7 brilliance demon monarch's soul wildly. She yelled, "Give it to me at once." Cries of agony echoed endlessly. The 7 brilliance demon monarch seemed to be in more pain than Lin Muyu. He let out a mocking laugh while screaming, You're trying to use my power? Are you qualified? The 7 luminaries' dark force is powerful, but it requires an extremely strong physique to control it. How can your weak body control the 7 luminaries' dark force? However, wisps of energy still seeped into Lin Muyu's body from the depths of his soul. Accompanied by the faint wails of ghosts and gods, a mysterious power appeared in Lin Muyu's right arm once again. He did not hesitate to throw a second punch, 2 luminaries' demonic dance. The fist was surrounded by demonic energy. Songbaiha had already reacted. He quickly raised his left palm to block Lin Muyu's attack, but to his surprise, he was unable to block it. The iron fist slid past the palm, but it still landed on Bai He's chest. There was a faint cracking sound of bones breaking. Bai He could no longer stand. He staggered back a few steps, and his blood-covered right palm was pulled out of Lin Muyu's chest. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and looked up at Lin Muyu. "There's a demon hiding in your body." Lin Muyu smiled bitterly as he knelt on the dragon bones. His hair had even started to turn white and his entire body was aging rapidly. The power of the 7 planets' profound force was incomparably vast and mighty. How could his mortal body be able to control the strongest power in the world? After using the 7 planets' profound force twice in a row, the price he had to pay was the symbol of his life, aging. Qin knelt there and looked at Lin Muyu kneeling on the ground in pain. His entire body was trembling, and his hair was white. Qin instantly burst into tears. Don't. Tang Xiaoxi held the fire-smelting whip and rushed up the dragon bones with a swoosh. Xiaoxi, Lin Muyu knelt on the ground. He did not raise his head, but raised his right palm and slowly waved it, indicating that she should not provoke Bai He. Otherwise, it would only bring about death. Bai He's power was definitely above the 4 of them. "You little bastard." Bai He stood up again and gathered the sanctuary energy around him. His fighting aura caused his gray robe to flutter. He raised his hand and grabbed the death fire rod in his hand again. Step by step, he walked towards Lin Muyu and sneered. "If I don't kill you today, I, Bai He, swear that I am not a human." However, at this moment, a series of sharp cries suddenly came from the sky. Furthermore, a faint voice could be heard. "Princess Shi, I, Chu, am here." Chu is here. Tang Xiaoxi's tears flowed. "Why are you only here now?" Bai He shuddered as well. Chu's arrival was definitely not a good thing for him. After all, he had just stepped into the Saint Realm, while Chu had been in the Saint Realm for many years. Once Chu discovered the situation here, he would definitely kill him. He couldn't afford to waste any time, or else he would definitely die here. At the thought of this, Bai He let out a shrill cry and rushed into the forest without looking back. A heart-wrenching pain came from his abdomen and chest. Lin Muyu lay on the dragon's bones and vomited blood. In the blink of an eye, his pure white sanctuary battle robe was dyed red with blood. Tang Xiaoxi rushed forward and helped him up. Looking at his miserable appearance, Tang Xiaoxi's tears rolled down her cheeks. Mu, don't die. Grandpa Chu will be here soon." Lin Muyu's breath was weak and his eyes were lifeless. He fell into Tang Xiaoxi's arms and did not move. Qin knelt on the ground and crawled over step by step. Her tears dripped onto the dragon's bones. "Don't die." Right at that moment, they saw a miraculous scene. Lin Muyu's white hair was slowly turning black. His sagging skin also slowly became plump and his breathing became much steadier. He coughed a few times and vomited another mouthful of blood. However, he opened his eyes and looked at the 2 beauties. "I'm fine, I won't die. Quickly go and save big brother Qin Lei." Qin Lei was still nailed to the dragon's bones by the metal staff. There were 2 shockingly large holes in his chest and abdomen. However, when he saw that Lin Muyu did not die, he smiled miserably. "You is fine, it's good that he's fine." Qin jumped down from the dragon's back and pulled out the metal staff to save Qin Lei. At the same time, she applied first-grade healing medicine on Qin Lei and Lin Muyu's wounds and then applied some gold wound ointment. However, Lin Muyu's wounds were too big and could not be healed in a short period of time. Blood flowed non-stop and Tang Xiaoxi's eyes turned red as she cried again and again. "Why isn't Master Chu here yet?" Qin asked. Tang Xiaoxi said, "I had the firefox cry out in order to attract Grandpa Chu over. However, he must be very far away from here, or else he would have arrived a long time ago." Lin Muyu had also recovered a bit of her breath. She lay in Tang Xiaoxi's embrace and said with a smile, "If Grandpa Chu was really very close, he would have directly killed the ashen crane. Why would he waste his energy to shout from afar?" Cough. He coughed violently and fresh blood gushed out from the corner of his mouth once again. Qin hurriedly wiped away the fresh blood for him. Her tears turned into a smile as she said, "It was Master Choo Choo's shout that saved our 4 lives. That's right." After a full 20 minutes, Choo Choo's figure finally appeared in the distance. He flew over like lightning and leapt onto the dragon bones. Looking at Lin Muyu and Qin Lei's miserable state, he couldn't help but frown and ask, "What exactly happened?" Tang Xiaoxi instantly burst into tears. She didn't even know how to explain her tear-stained face. "What exactly happened? Your Highness?" Choo Choo knelt on one knee on the dragon bones and bowed towards Qin Yin. Qin Yin nodded her head and indicated for him to rise. "Do you still remember Grandpa Choo Choo, the #1 expert of the Divine Marquis Constabulary? Songbaiha?" Choo Choo was stunned. "That's an expert at the peak of the heavenly state. What happened to him?" "Songbaiha has stepped into the divine region. He was the one who wanted to kill us just now." "What?" Choo Choo's entire body trembled. Could it be that he doesn't know your Highness's identity?" "He knows, that's why he wanted to silence me." Qin Yin appeared extremely calm. "I came late to the rescue, please forgive me, Your Highness." Choo Choo cupped his fists and said, "Sir Choo Choo doesn't need to blame yourself. If it wasn't for your shout, I'm afraid we would have already died in the hands of Songbaiha." Qin Yin said unhurriedly, "Can you quickly help Brother Yu and Qin Lei take a look at their injuries?" "Yes." Choo Choo examined for a while and said, "Lin Muyu's life is really tough. 3 of his ribs are broken and his heart is injured, but he's still alive. Little Prince's injuries are much lighter, his organs aren't injured." Tang Xiaoxi said, "That's because Mu had just refined the beast soul of the Forbidden Mother Tree not long ago and obtained the ability to recover. That's why his body's self-healing ability is stronger." "So that's how it is." Choo Choo looked at Tang Xiaoxi and said with a smile, "Princess Xi's cultivation has also improved greatly." Tang Xiaoxi wiped the tears on her face, but she was already smiling proudly with her breasts puffed out. Qin Yin asked, "Sir Choo Choo, why are you in the dragon-seeking forest? How did Xiaoxi know that you'll be here?" Tang Xiaoxi said, "I actually don't know, I just took a gamble. Actually, I've been guarding here all these years," Choo Choo said. Qin Yin was shocked. Choo Choo smiled and explained, "Your Highness, this is the dragon's tomb in the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. Normally, no one will come here, and those who come must be here to steal all kinds of treasures. Unfortunately, there are no treasures here, only dragon bones, and they are not real dragon bones. However, there has been a person guarding the dragon's tomb for generations. When Choo Choo was 27 years old, he took over the responsibility of guarding the dragon's tomb from his master. So other than serving in the imperial capital and Seven Seas City, Choo Choo will always patrol around the dragon's tomb. Fortunately, I'm here, or else I would have made a huge mistake." "So Grandpa Choo Choo is also in charge of guarding the dragon's tomb." Lin Muyu smiled. "Then can I borrow some dragon tendon vines from here?" "There are many dragon tendon vines, you can do as you please." Choo Choo was very generous. Lin Muyu continued, "Grandpa Choo Choo, this time we've been targeted by the pale crane. After I gather the herbs, you can come back to the imperial capital with us and protect Her Highness and Xiaoxi on the way. Brother Qin Lei and I are already injured, so we can't continue to protect them." "Yes." Choo Choo nodded heavily. After resting until night time, Lin Muyu's injuries had slightly improved, and she could move on her own. So, she used the burning prairie sword to cut the dragon tendon vines on the dragon bones. When the starlight shone on the dragon's tomb, the ground was glowing, which made him very surprised. It was the luminous grass. No one would have thought that the luminous grass and the dragon tendon vines would grow together. No wonder people on the mainland could not find the luminous grass, so it grew in a place like the dragon's tomb that was rarely visited by people. Chapter 91. After frantically collecting a lot of dragon tendon vine and luminous grass, Lin Muyu once again fell into a dilemma. She said sullenly, "I've collected everything, but I'm still missing needlepoint birds. What should I do, needlepoint birds?" Qin Yin smiled faintly, "I've heard of it. It's a very small bird. What do you want needlepoint birds for? Bone muscle replenishment powder can't be mixed with water. It must be mixed with blood. The blood to be used is the blood of needlepoint birds. Lin Muyu looked up and said, Grandpa Choo Choo, do you know where to find needlepoint birds? Choo Choo pondered, needlepoint birds only hunt at night. Their food is fireflies flying in the night sky. So we must find needlepoint birds in places with water. There is water in the dragon's tomb. We will camp by the water tonight. You guys have a good rest. I'll go catch some needlepoint birds. How many do you need? Lin Muyu thought about it and said, if we kill, we need 20. If we don't kill and only bleed, we need at least 50 needlepoint birds. Grandpa Choo Choo, you'll have to work hard and catch 50 needlepoint birds. Qin Yin smiled faintly and said, it's a good thing that you doesn't want to kill. Huh, look at what your highness said. It's just that the needlepoint birds are too small. Otherwise, we can bleed them first and then roast them. Lin Muyu grinned, I feel so hungry when I talk about this. Qin Yin raised her eyebrows and raised her nose slightly. She looked at him proudly with her beautiful eyes. It seemed that she had to reevaluate this guy. At night, they camped by a nearby stream. Choo Choo quickly caught enough needlepoint birds and then sat quietly to watch Lin Muyu refine medicine. In fact, one of the main reasons why he was so eager to help was to let Lin Muyu teach him the formula of level 10 medicine refining, and Lin Muyu did not keep it to herself and passed it on. Anyway, Choo Choo's poor understanding of medicine refining would probably not be able to learn it. Lin Muyu continuously refined the medicinal essence of the dragon tendon vine and luminous grass while Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin used the sharp edge of their daggers to bleed the needlepoint birds. Each bird only let out a few drops of blood and then they were released. The two of them fought to do this work, otherwise it would have been Qin Lei's turn to do it. If Qin Lei's knife went down, perhaps even an elephant would die, not to mention a pocket-sized bird like the needlepoint bird. Drops of fluorescent medicinal essence fell into the cup and fused with the needlepoint bird's blood. Very quickly, there was a reaction, and a faint fragrance floated in the air. No one would have thought that these things fused together would have such a strange fragrance. After refining more than 20 bottles of muscle replenishing powder in one go, Lin Muyu handed a bottle to Qin Lei and said, Big brother Qin Lei, drink this bottle. Qin Lei stared blankly, my dragon tendon hasn't been broken, why would I drink this? Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. The full name of muscle replenishing powder is muscle replenishing bone restoring powder. It has a very good healing effect on injuries of broken tendons and bones. You're so heavily injured, maybe your tendons and bones have been injured. Drinking a bottle is always good, lest there be any hidden injuries or disabilities in the future. Qin Lei received it and drank it in one gulp. Lin Muyu also drank a bottle. It hadn't been long since his ribs were reconnected. Originally, he would need to rest for at least half a month to recover, but with the effect of muscle replenishing powder, he would be as good as new in 3 to 5 days at most. She carefully put away the bottles of muscle replenishing powder. These muscle replenishing powder were the spirit medicine that could save Zhang Wei. After all, Zhang Wei was a martial artist. If he really couldn't practice martial arts, then perhaps his entire life would be ruined, and he would be better off dead. This night, with Choo Choo's protection, he could finally have a good sleep. He drowsily slept until dawn, and when he opened his eyes, he saw the sun rising in the east. He took a deep breath, inhaled and exhaled the purple spiritual power, only to feel that the fighting energy in his body was quickly abundant. This night's rest allowed him to recover at least 80% of his fighting energy. However, his injury was too serious, so it was not suitable for him to fight for the time being. Otherwise, the bandaged wound would not only reopen, the previous efforts of reconnecting the bones would also be wasted. Looking at his chest, a piece of white cloth was used as bandage. The white cloth was dotted with beautiful golden purple flowers. This was the skirt that Qin Yin tore off to bandage for him. He could even feel Qin Yin's delicate fragrance on it. He was probably the only one in the world who could receive such treatment. They set off at dawn. After leaving the range of the dragon tomb, they found a warhorse and gave one to Choo Choo to ride. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin shared the other horse. The 5 of them walked in the winding mountains. 2 days later, they entered the imperial area of the dragon-seeking forest. It was only a day's journey from the imperial capital. In the afternoon, when they were watering the horses, Lin Muyu took off the battle robe that was dyed red with blood and washed it in the stream. Streaks of blood flowed along with the stream. After washing it repeatedly, it was finally clean. Using a tree branch to poke it into the saddle, Tang Xiaoxi playfully opened her hands and used the high temperature of her martial spirit, the fire fox, to roast it. It was very quickly clean, but it was only clean on the outside. Lin Muyu's tight-fitting white undergarments and the armor of the holy temple were actually dyed red with blood. However, there was no way to wash it, so they could only leave it like this. Furthermore, the main reason for washing was because they were about to reach Lanyan City. As one of the guards of Her Royal Highness, he had to be mindful of the dignity of the royal family. On the other hand, Chu Chu was dressed in a white robe that was exactly the same as what Qin Lei was wearing. They were both white-robed imperial guards. The workmanship of this kind of white robe was even more exquisite. On it, there was even a purple flower embroidered with the empire's emblem, making it look dignified and elegant. In comparison, the armor of the holy temple looked even more like it was bought from a treasure chest. Luckily, Lin Muyu was born handsome, so it did not look out of place when she wore it. Late at night, they entered the vicinity of the royal hunting grounds. Qin Lei carried his blade and said with a smile, "Not long later, we should be able to see the imperial army camp led by Feng Jixing. It should not be more than 30 miles away from here. Shall we travel through the night?" Chu Chu nodded his head. All right." This time, Qin Lei walked at the front to clear the path. Chu Chu was behind him, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were in the middle, and Lin Muyu was at the very back, in charge of protecting the two beauties. It was another dark and windy night. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the forest was covered in darkness. Roars of tigers and wolves could be heard from afar. Qin Lei held the thunder split blade in one hand and a torch in the other, and said, "Be careful, the mountainous terrain here is rugged, don't let the war horses lose their footing." Qin Yin replied. But just at this time, there was a sudden sound of wind breaking. That was the sound of a cold arrow. Lin Muyu was very sensitive to this, because it was precisely this sound that caused him to suffer a fatal injury, and he almost lost his life. This sound was forever engraved in his mind. "Be careful!" When he shouted, Chu Chu had already leaped off the warhorse. He opened his palm, and with a paw sound, he caught the cold arrow in the dark night. His gaze turned cold, and he said, "Who are you? Scram out here." But what answered him was an even more concentrated arrow. "Protect Her Highness!" Qin Lei shouted loudly. Lin Muyu quickly urged his horse to arrive in front of Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin. He raised his hand and shouted in a low voice. The wall of the calabash blossomed with an indigo light, and the black tortoise shell slowly moved on the wall of the calabash, shooting out arrows one after another. Meanwhile, Qin Lei had already entered the forest with his blade in hand. With a low roar, purple lightning illuminated the surroundings, and killed a group of people who shot arrows. Capture Qin Yin, the reward is 1 million Jinin coins. It was unknown who shouted, but immediately after, many people carrying long swords rushed out from the forest. Every one of them wore a silver badge on their chest, and on it was the image of a sword. "People from the House of Chivalry?" Chu Chu muttered. Tang Xiaoxi clenched her teeth, and said indignantly, "Chu Chu, last time, it was these people from the House of Chivalry who almost killed me. This time, they actually dared to target Xiao Yin. This is too despicable, this House of Chivalry." Chu Chu smiled slightly. "Princess and Her Highness, please be at ease. Today, with me, Chu Chu here, no one can hurt you." As he spoke, Chu Chu suddenly opened his arms, and with a roar, he struck out with his palm. The light of the fire cauldron martial spirit exploded, and this palm actually transformed into a huge fire palm, blasting into the forest. Pang! Dozens of warriors from the House of Chivalry were killed one after another, and Lin Muyu was slightly stunned as she watched. No wonder people said that Chu Chu's palm technique was the best in the world. and it seemed that it was indeed so. Once Chu Chu made his move, the group of warriors were all shocked. Immediately, someone cursed, "Damn it, which bastard sent back fake news? This is not Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others at all. Unexpectedly, even the white-robed Chu Chu is here. Quickly retreat, the operation is cancelled, or else all of us will die here." However, Qin Lei had already raised his saber and was killing everywhere in the crowd, as if there was no one around. These people basically couldn't escape. "Capture one alive," Qin Yin said indifferently. "Yes, Your Highness." Qin Lei laughed loudly. At this moment, 3 sword-wielding warriors went around Chu Chu's position and went straight towards Qin Yin. Each of them had their faces covered, and they shouted in a low voice, "Either capture Qin Yin or kill Qin Yin, attack together." Qin Yin pouted, "These bastards who are not afraid of death. Don't, Your Highness doesn't need to do anything." Lin Muyu smiled slightly and suddenly opened her right hand. Lightning flashed, and the long sword was suddenly unsheathed. Lightning lingered around the blade of the sword, and with a schwa sound, it broke through the air. Pu piu piu, like a skewer of candied haws, it consecutively pierced through the bodies of the 3 assassins. This strike was really too fast, and those with lower cultivation were unable to dodge it. Lin Muyu raised her finger, and the long sword spun back, and with a keng sound, it entered the sheath, as if nothing had happened. Tang Xiaoxi giggled. "This imperial sword technique is really too cool." Qin Yin nodded and agreed with a smile. Not long after, Chu Chu and Qin Lei returned. Qin Lei had killed dozens of people in a row, and was already panting, but he still had an assassin in his hand. He had already knocked the assassin out, and hung him directly on the horse. He said, "After we return to Lanyan City, we will interrogate him properly. I want to see what kind of bear's heart and leopard's heart this house of chivalry has eaten to actually dare to lay their hands on Her Highness and the princess." Qin Yin nodded. "Yes, this matter should not be delayed. Let's quickly set off to meet up with General Feng." At about dawn, the Empire's war flags appeared indistinctly in the distance, and they finally arrived at the Imperial Army's camp. A war horse galloped over, and it was Feng Jixing. Carrying a war knife, he elegantly flipped over the horse and cupped his fists, saying, "Her Highness, Princess, you are finally back. I was worried to death." As he spoke, he raised his head and smiled. "Master Chu Chu, you are back too?" "Yes, General Feng has worked hard." Chapter 92. As noon approached, more than 2,000 imperial guards escorted Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Chu, and the others to Lanyan City. A row of cavalry quickly rushed out of the city. These people wore a very ferocious emblem on their arms. It was a golden eagle with its claws spread open. In the whole of Lanyan City, there was only one military branch that had this emblem, Military Police Battalion. Xiang Yu took the lead, holding a blood-colored spear. He walked forward, cupped his hands, and said with a smile, "Her Highness Yin has returned safely. Xiang Yu has been ordered by His Majesty to welcome Her Highness Yin." Qin Yin smiled and said, "Commander Xiang need not be so polite. Let's enter the city now." Xiang Yu slowly turned his horse around and followed behind Qin Yin with Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and the others. His eyes swept back and forth, and finally fell on Lin Muyu in the temple's battle robes. He couldn't help but smile and said, "You are the only gold star sparring master of the temple, Linji?" Lin Muyu didn't know this Xiang Yu, so she nodded and said, "Yes, my lord." Ta. Xiang Yu looked up and laughed, saying, "You are so handsome, no wonder everyone says heroes come from the young. It seems that the future of Lanyan City depends on how Lin Ji and your generation do." Lin Muyu frowned, feeling that there was a hidden meaning in his words, but she didn't know how to continue. She cupped her hands and said with a smile, "My lord, you are too kind." "Heh, you are too modest," Xiang Yu said indifferently and didn't say anything else. At this moment, a group of people in the temple's battle robes galloped over, led by the Gold Star instructor Zheng Shanhe. He held a heavy shield in one hand, and his eyes searched the crowd. When he saw Lin Muyu, he couldn't help but smile in surprise and said, "Lord Lin Ji, you are back. Have you found the herbs? The great deacon sent me to pick you up." Lin Muyu spurred her horse out of the formation and said respectfully, "Lord Zheng, the herbs have been found. I will go back to the temple with you." "All right." Lin Muyu turned around and cupped her fists towards Feng Jixing and Qin Lei, then said, "I still have a mission in the Divine Hall, so I'll be heading back first. Big Brother Feng, Big Brother Qin Lei, I'll leave the safety of His Highness and Princess Shi to you." Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said with a smile, You're too courteous. Hurry up and go back. When I'm free, I'll visit you at the Sacred Hall. It's been a long time since I sparred with you." "All right." Qin Lei also cupped his hands and said with a smile, "You cultivate well. You don't have to worry about anything else. Big brothers will settle everything for you." Lin Muyu could not help but feel grateful and said, Thank you big brothers, I will leave first. Please say goodbye to His Highness and Princess for me." "All right." He turned his horse around and followed Jing Shanhe straight towards the Divine Hall. When he looked back, the densely packed banners and spears had already blocked the backs of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. However, they would definitely be safe once they entered Lanyan City. With the protection of thousands of soldiers and horses, not to mention divine domain experts, even godly state experts would not be able to do anything to them. After not seeing each other for a few days, the pitch-black door of the divine temple seemed a little familiar. When Lin Muyu, Zheng Shanhe, and the rest arrived, the door opened. Gu Yang rode his horse and led a group of people to welcome them. His face was filled with eagerness. Did you find what you were looking for?" Lin Muyu nodded heavily, her eyes filled with confidence, and said with a smile, "Grandpa Gu Yang, don't worry. Please bring me to Lord Zhang Wei's place immediately, we can start the treatment." "Good." Gu Yang smiled in admiration. The sound of hooves galloping passed by. Zhang Wei was arranged to stay in the center of the holy temple, and beside him was Rayham's residence. It seemed that Rayham was also worried that Zhang Wei would be ambushed again, so he personally protected this upright and fierce Silver Star instructor. Lei Hong came over and saw through the change in Lin Muyu's temperament at a glance. He could not help but smile. You have broken through and stepped into the heavenly state?" "Yes, Grandpa Lei Hong." Lin Muyu turned over and dismounted, kneeling on one knee, and said, "Thank you Grandpa Lei Hong for your protection, otherwise I am afraid I would not have the cultivation I have today." "How did you?" Lei Hong was stunned, and hurriedly went forward to help him up. You are not such a fussy person, how did you?" At this moment, his gaze fell on Lin Muyu's chest, and he found that the clothes there were still stained with blood. Lei Hong's spiritual sense also immediately discovered that Lin Muyu was actually seriously injured, and this injury almost took his life. For a moment, the old man's heart warmed. This child had clearly taken a trip to the gates of hell. For Lin Muyu, Lei Hong's care for him could be said to be meticulous, as if he was his real grandfather. In this world where the weak were prey to the strong, how could he not worry about such a grandfather? You have worked hard." Lei Hong held his arm and said, "You really did not let Grandpa down. How was it? I heard that you, Highness Yin, Princess Shi, and the others entered the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. Who injured you like this?" "A person called Songbaihe," Lin Muyu said lightly. But Lei Hong and Gu Yang were both shocked. Lei Hong narrowed his eyes and said, "That old thing Songbaihe should have already stepped into the divine region, right? It seems that Zhang Wei's injury is inextricably linked to him." "Lord Zhang Wei was injured by him," Lin Muyu said. "This Songbaihe even wanted to kill Highness Yin and Princess Shi." What? Lei Hong felt a chill in his heart. This Songbaihe is really daring. He even dared to kill Highness Yin. What is the divine marquis residence planning? Could it be that Zheng Yifan has gone mad? Gu Yang said in a low voice. These years, Zheng Yifan's military power has been continuously weakened, and it is said that he has long held a grudge against His Majesty. Now it seems that this is true. We have to be careful, Great Deacon. Lei Hong nodded. I will see His Majesty as soon as possible and tell him about this. Don't worry, we will quickly enter the inner chamber to treat Zhang Wei's injury. He will not be able to hold on much longer. A group of people entered the room, and Zhang Wei was still lying there, unable to move, but his bearded face was still filled with arrogance. Looking at the people coming in from outside, a glimmer of light shone in his eyes. Lord Lin Ji, you have returned? Lin Muyu walked forward and smiled. Lord Zhang Wei, your injury can be cured. Cured? Zhang Wei laughed at himself. I am already a cripple. Don't worry. Lin Muyu reached into her bosom and took out a total of 3 bottles of tendon replenishment powder. She lifted Zhang Wei's head and fed him, then said, the tendon replenishment powder will regenerate your dragon tendons in 2 to 3 days. This process is very obvious. Your spine will soon feel a tingling sensation, that is the dragon tendons automatically gathering and healing. Really? Zhang Wei was a little excited. Lord Lin Ji, you mean? I, Zhang Wei, can continue to practice martial arts? Lin Muyu smiled happily. Of course, and your cultivation will not decrease. That's great. Zhang Wei was excited. He wanted to sit up, but he could not exert any strength on his back. In the end, he struggled and smiled awkwardly. I, Zhang Wei, am a boorish man. I do not know how to express my gratitude, but from today onwards, Zhang Wei's life is equivalent to Lord Lin Ji's. No need, we are friends, we both work for the temple, this is what I should do. Lei Hong said, Zhang Wei, Lin Ji has just returned to the temple. He was ambushed by the person who attacked you when he was looking for medicine. He is seriously injured. He should not stay for long. Let him go back and rest first. Zhang Wei was startled. He forced himself to cup his fists and said, then, Lord Lin Ji, you should go back and rest first. After leaving the door, Lei Hong and Lin Muyu walked side by side in the corridor of the temple. He said, you, logically speaking, even if you stepped into the heaven realm, you should not be able to stop Ashen Crane, a sanctuary ranker, from killing you, right? Hurry up and tell me, how did you escape this calamity? Naturally, Lin Muyu could not tell him the power of the 7 luminaries demon emperor, so she said, there were 4 of us, other than me. There was also Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Qin Lei. Qin Lei is the commander of the Imperial Army. His power is shocking, and he also has the true dragon bloodline god-binding shackles, so he was able to suppress and threaten Ashen Crane, and when we were about to lose, Grandpa Chu Chu came. Lei Hong could not help but laugh. At least this old man is still useful. If he did not appear at the crucial moment, I am afraid the empire would have changed. Lin Muyu was a little stunned. She asked, Grandpa Lei Hong, I am saying if Her Highness Yin was really killed by Ashen Crane, then what would happen to the empire? What would happen? Lei Hong looked at her with a smile and said, His Majesty is a very devoted man. He only loved one woman in his life, Her Highness Yin's mother, Empress Jingda, Su Yun. After Empress Su Yun passed away, His Majesty did not marry any other woman, so he has no children, only one daughter, Qin Yin. According to the rules of the empire's ancestors, Qin Yin is the only legal successor of the Qin family, and also the future ruler of the empire. Once Qin Yin dies, I am afraid the imperial power will fall. His Majesty has 2 brothers, both princes. One is Prince Yuning. He has 2 sons, the eldest Qin Yin, the second son Qin Yen, and the other prince is Prince Shinan, Qin. However, Prince Shinan is far away in Lingnan, so once Qin Yin and Qin Lei die, the person most likely to become the new emperor should be Prince Yuning's second son, Qin Yen. As he spoke, Lei Hong shook his head and smiled. But no matter who becomes the new successor of the family, they will not be able to escape the flames of war, so it is naturally for the best that Her Highness Qin Yin is alive. It is also good for the common people. You have done well. You would rather die than to protect Qin Yin's life. Her one life is worth millions of lives. Yes, Grandpa Lei Hong. Back at his residence, in the same secret room, Lin Muyu continued to focus on cultivating the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll, continuously increasing the strength of his battle chi. His thirst for power grew more and more, but He was no longer that desperate for the power of the 7 planets' profound energy. He had experienced the backlash of the 7 planets' profound energy. It was simply worse than death, so it was best not to use that evil power if possible. Thus, he spent the next few days cultivating in the sacred hall, visiting Chu Yao once in the middle, and taught her some basic tricks of cultivation. He also forged a profound grade rapier and gifted it to Chu Yao, and began to teach her the technique of the imperial sword technique. Chu Yao could be considered smart, and within a few days she had already grasped the basics. Chapter 93. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye. Everything was peaceful as usual. Song Baihe had not appeared since his defeat in the dragon-seeking forest. He must have been afraid that once he entered Lanyan City, he would be hunted down by Chu Chu, Lei Hong, and the rest. Song Baihe's ribs were shattered by Lin Muyu's 7 luminaries' Xian energy and could not recover in a short period of time. Naturally, he did not dare to come looking for trouble. Early in the morning, the sound of fists hissing through the air could be heard coming from the divine hall. Zhang Wei was already able to get off the ground, and his fiery soul fists looked vigorous and powerful. Although he had not recovered to his peak strength, he had at least 70% of his original strength. Lin Muyu, dressed in a divine temple robe, smiled and said, "Congratulations, Master Zhang Wei. You're fine now." Zhang Wei immediately stopped practicing and gave a military salute to Lin Muyu. "I will forever remember Master Lin Ji's kindness. Half of my life belongs to Master Lin Ji." "You are welcome." Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said, "The divine marquis residence will not let us off easily. Master Zhang Wei must recover quickly or we will be at a disadvantage again." At this moment, Gu Yang walked over and said, "Tomorrow is the weapon forging day. You should all prepare. Lin Ji, this is your first time participating in the weapon forging day. Zhang Wei will explain everything to you." "Weapon forging day? What does that mean?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Zhang Wei smiled and explained patiently, "Lin Ji, you have been in the Divine Temple for a long time, so you should know by now. The Divine Temple is the holy land of the Empire and has 2 main functions. One is to discover the Empire's martial talents and the other is to train the outstanding military students. The cradle of the Empire's experts is the Academy. The imperial capital has the strongest Ares Academy. Many outstanding military talents graduated from Ares Academy. The Divine Temple is responsible for sending a group of instructors and sparring masters to Ares Academy every month to spar in front of the students and teach them outstanding martial skills and battle experience." "Do I have to go too?" "Of course, you're the strongest training partner in the Sacred Hall. If you don't go, I'm afraid our training partners will be beaten to the point where they can't even walk after the Weapon Refinement Day." Lin Muyu immediately frowned and said, "Zhang Wei, you should change your fiery temper as well. Don't always beat your sparring partner until half of his body is paralyzed during training, do you understand?" Zhang Wei scratched the back of his head and smiled awkwardly. "I will try my best to pay attention to it. Lord Lin Ji, rest assured." "Yes." Gu Yang smiled at the side. This time's weapon forging day is rather special. It's said that many army commanders will personally participate and select outstanding graduates to join the army as officers, so you guys must perform better. Also, pay attention and protect yourselves. Zhang Wei cupped his fists. "Understood, Deacon Gu Yang." As he spoke, Zhang Wei's eyes turned cold. Other than Zhen Fang and Ouyang Qiu, the Divine Marquis residence still has some lackeys in the Divine Temple. They are all targets that we must guard against. Who else? Silver Star Instructor Deng Zilin, Gold Star Instructor Su Fang, but the most terrifying one is probably another person. Who? Zhang Wei's eyes lit up. This person rarely participates in training, but he is the strongest among all the Gold Star instructors. He is known as the first spear of the Divine Temple, Zhao Jin. It's said that he broke through level 70 a few days ago and became a Gold Star instructor with the strength of a Heavenly King. He is the only Heavenly King instructor in the Divine Temple. Yang added, Zhao Jin is a second-rank aide of the Divine Marquis residence. He is also a noble, and his strength is extraordinary. His spear skills are outstanding. Lin Ji, you must be careful. If you can avoid meeting Zhao Jin, do your best. Do you understand? Yes, Deacon Yang. Dismissed, go and train. In the middle of the night, the stars shone brightly on the Divine Marquis residence. Zheng Yifan raised his head to look at the glittering stars in the sky and sighed. A trace of disappointment flashed across his resolute face as he said, even Elder Song failed. I would never have thought of this. Zheng Fong walked over with a cup of tea. Father, have some tea. Grandpa Song failed because Chu Chu was also in the dragon-seeking forest. Otherwise, Lin Muyu would have been beheaded. Sigh, Zheng Yifan's eyes were cold. Elder Song's failure has alerted the enemy. His Majesty will definitely know that Elder Song wants to kill Qin Yin. The Divine Marquis residence will also be in trouble. No, we must strike first. Strike first? Zheng Fong was stunned. Zheng Yifan's eyes were cold. Send a letter to Elder Song. Tell him to go to the Qinling Mountains to train for a while. Tomorrow, issue a wanted order to the Shunwei Battalion. The entire country is looking for Tsang Bai He. Anyone who obtains his head will be rewarded with 1,000,000 gold coins. Yes, father. Zhen Fang nodded respectfully, then said, I heard that Lin Muyu had gotten her hands on a medicine called muscle replenishing powder and has already healed Zhang Wei's dragon tendon. These two people are still alive, father. Are we just going to ignore this? Lin Muyu must die. Zheng Yifan punched the railing. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. He smiled. Tomorrow is the day of weapon refinement. I have already told General Zhao Jin that he has become a heavenly king. The day of weapon refinement will be the day Lin Muyu dies. All right. Inside a room in the side chamber of the sacred palace. Russell, Zhao Jin slowly wiped the shiny shaft of his spear. This pear blossom spear had been with him for many years. It had made countless contributions in conquering the south and the north. Tomorrow would be the time for this pear blossom spear to drink blood. Buzz! With a light flick of his wrist, the spearhead immediately let out a buzzing sound and a beautiful cold gleam. Zhao Jin continued to rub his pear blossom spear in a leisurely manner. There was not a single trace of emotion in his eyes. Those who deserved to die would eventually die. No matter how radiant he would not be able to escape death in the face of absolute power. Knock knock, a servant knocked on the door. Lord Zhao Jin, tonight's supper is here. Shall I bring it in now? No need. I won't eat meat tonight. Zhao Jin smiled coldly. After the servant left, he muttered to himself. I can eat meat tomorrow. Early in the morning, the sound of the horn reverberated in the sacred palace. The day of weapon refinement had finally arrived. After breakfast, Lin Muyu, Zhang Wei, and the others put on their new sacred palace battle robes. Lin Muyu also noticed that his battle robe was actually more exquisite and luxurious than Zhang Wei's. The white cloak behind him was inlaid with a silver-purple flower pattern. He had seen Feng Jixing and Qin Lei's white robes, which had a golden-purple flower pattern. This must be the difference. One by one, the battle horses were brought out. Lin Muyu found the one that belonged to him and mounted it. He saw Lei Hong, Yang, Zhen Fong, and the other deacon-level members walking in front. Behind them were Lin Muyu, Jing Shanhe, and the other Gold Star instructors and sparring masters. Behind them were the Silver Star, Bronze Star, and Iron Star instructors. The Sacred Palace's hierarchy was very strict. Let's go! After Lei Hong gave the order, the battle horses rushed out of the Sacred Palace in a single file and went straight out of the city. Ares College was built outside the city. As the space within the city was too small, it was unable to provide a spacious enough training field for Ares College. After more than an hour, they reached the depths of the dense forest outside the city. From afar, they could hear the uniform sound of hooves. A group of young students in dark blue imperial military uniforms were riding their horses to practice riding and shooting. But when the instructors and sparring masters of the Sacred Palace passed by, The group of students stopped their training and saluted from afar to show their respect. In the hearts of the students, the instructors of the sacred palace were sacred existences. Ares College was more like a city. The city walls were 10 meters tall and there were antlers everywhere. It looked as if they were facing a great enemy. In fact, when this place was built, Ares College had already been treated as a battle fortress. It was used to surround and protect the imperial capital, Lanyan City, which was in the center. When the group of people from the sacred palace arrived at the bottom of the city, the gates slowly opened. A group of people riding on battle horses came to welcome them. At the front was a white-bearded old man in armor. He had the demeanor of an elder. He cupped his fists and smiled. "Sir Lei Hong, you're here. The teachers and students of Ares College have been waiting for you for a long time." Lei Hong also smiled respectfully. "Dean Qin Hao is too polite. Let's go in. Time is precious on the day of weapon refinement." After entering the college, the interior was surprisingly spacious. All the students here were wearing the imperial military uniform and looked very spirited. However, they were mostly men. It seemed that there were very few women in the military. Moreover, based on Lin Muyu's understanding of the Shattered Cauldron realm, the status of women in this world was very low. It was much lower than in ancient China. However, women of high status like Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were an exception. Even so, they were unable to hold important positions in the military. Very soon, a huge training ground appeared in front of them. It could accommodate at least a few thousand people. There were already many people sitting on the high platform. Lin Muyu's eyes were sharp. Her gaze swept across each and every one of them. Most of the badges on their necks were gold stars, which meant that most of them were at least Kiliarchs. After everyone was in position, Gu Yang began to call out the names of the instructors and sparring masters one by one. Finally, Gu Yang announced loudly, "The first public trial, Copper Star instructor Zhou Pei against Copper Star sparring master Jiang Yan." The two of them went up the stage. After a round of fighting, the instructor's consecutive slashes caused the sparring master to fall to the ground. Immediately, the surrounding graduates cheered. The sparring master stood up in a sorry state and bowed respectfully. However, the instructor didn't even look at him directly. It was as if this was how people should be. Lin Muyu frowned. The instructors were still too arrogant after all. The training and demonstrations went on for the entire morning. The training ground at the side was the place where the students dueled. Those high-ranking officers were already choosing the graduates they liked. Lin Muyu watched the entire morning. All the Gold Star instructors' demonstrations were arranged to be the finale in the afternoon. Therefore, as a Gold Star sparring master, he could only work in the afternoon. Chapter 94. In the afternoon, the process of refining weapons continued. Ares College's dean, Qin Hao, wore the armor of the Empire's soldiers. He stood up and pointed to the students in front of him. These 200 students are the most outstanding students of this year's graduates. They are also the main targets of the Gold Star instructor's research. After the trial, these students may personally ask the instructor for advice. Lei Hong nodded with a smile. Lin Muyu watched from afar and said, "Is this Dean Qin Hao also a member of the Qin clan?" Qin Xiling said in a low voice, "Lin Ji, Dean Qin Hao is a collateral relative of the Qin clan and not a direct descendant. It's just that his talent is extraordinary and his realm is extremely high, already possessing the strength of a level 87 heavenly emperor. So even though he is a declining noble clan, he was still appointed as the dean of Ares College by the emperor more than 10 years ago and given the title of general." Lin Muyu felt a little more respect for this Qin Hao. At this time, the afternoon trial had officially begun. Gu Yang held the scroll in his hand and announced loudly, "Gold Star Trial, first match, Fist Technique Trial. Gold Star Instructor Zhang Wei against Gold Star Sparring Master Lin Ji." Zhang Wei, who was riding on his war horse, was stunned. "When did I become a Gold Star instructor?" Rayham smiled faintly, raised his hand and tossed out a small object. Zhang Wei caught it and saw that it was a gold star instructor badge. He happily swapped out his silver star badge and flipped off his horse, jumping onto the trial grounds. Lin Muyu also flipped off her horse. She did not unsheath the burning prairie sword behind her. She went straight to Zhang Wei and cupped her fists. "Sir Zhang Wei, thank you for your guidance." Zhang Wei laughed. "Brother Lin Ji, there is no need to be so courteous. Come." He suddenly let out a low roar, and with the support of the bear martial soul in both of his arms, he unleashed the fiery soul fist without any hesitation. It whistled like the wind, and a straight punch carried with it the power to collapse the mountains and crack the earth. Even the fiery force that was brought along with it turned into a strong gale that blew the nearby students back one after another. Each and every one of them had a horrified look on their faces. Instructor Jin Xing's strength was indeed extraordinary. However, under the astonished gazes of the crowd, Lin Muyu countered every move that came her way. With a light wave of her arm, her martial spirit flashed out. The black tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall surrounded her body as a pure white glow faintly flowed on her arm. It was Do Chi. This gold star sparring master is a heaven realm expert. That's battle energy. No one knew who shouted, but the group of students became solemn. One of them said loudly, "I know." Recently, the only gold star sparring master appeared in the Holy Temple. His name is Lin Ji. At that time, he was only a level 50 battle saint. Now, he has stepped into the heaven realm and become a heavenly venerable. What a fast advancement speed. Bang! The fist landed on the black tortoise shell. Lin Muyu quickly retreated, but she still stood in the field. Zhang Wei let out a low roar and swept his leg across the ground, creating a raging flame. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu leaped into the air and looked down. Zhang Wei's signature move had arrived, Earth Dragon Soar. This was the leg technique that Zhang Wei was best at. Both of his legs were surrounded by raging flames as he kicked into the air. This guy did not hold back at all. In fact, Zhang Wei also knew that with his current cultivation he could not hurt Lin Muyu. Therefore, he gave it his all and only hoped that it would be a good and exciting fight. Opening both palms, Lin Muyu still used the same hand gesture. Battle energy surged in her palms to block Zhang Wei's attack. She turned around and landed on the ground. The cracks on the black tortoise shell that were caused by Zhang Wei's continuous attacks were quickly repaired. That was the ability of the Forbidden Mother Tree Beast Spirit, Recovery. With this ability, the damaged defensive layer would also be repaired quickly. This was the most powerful part of this sixth ability. After a series of ruthless punches, Zhang Wei quickly retreated and stood opposite of Lin Muyu. He cupped his fists and said, "Lord Lin Ji's cultivation is astonishing. I, Zhang Wei, am not your opponent." Lin Muyu also cupped her fists and smiled, "Lord Zhang Wei, thank you for letting me win." Gu Yang announced loudly, "It's a draw." Zhang Wei's fist technique originated from the war god Xiang Wentian's fiery fist. Any student who wants to learn the fiery fist can immediately go and ask Lord Zhang Wei for guidance. Very soon, Zhang Wei was drowned by a group of students. However, being so popular, this burly man revealed a happy smile. Lin Muyu slowly walked back to the row of sparring masters. She stood at the front and mounted her horse. Gu Yang continued. The second round of the Gold Star level, Sword and Shield instructor Jing Shanhe against Silver Star sparring master Ma Lin. Ma Lin was a man of about 30 years old. His face was full of crisscross scars. It was said that he used to be a mercenary who committed all sorts of crimes, but later turned a new leaf. Because he was a commoner, he became a sparring master after joining the Holy Temple. He did not specialize in any martial arts, but his bronze skin and iron bones were famous in the Holy Temple for his defense. Qin Xiling smiled and said, "Be careful, Lord Ma Lin. I heard that Lord Jing Shanhe's cultivation of offensive techniques has been quite successful recently." Ma Lin laughed and said, "Don't worry, Xiling. I'll be fine." Jing Shanhe carried his sword and shield and stepped into the training field. Among the Gold Star instructors, he was indeed one of the more loyal ones. After the battle started, he only demonstrated the method of switching between sword techniques and foot combat, and did not hurt Ma Lin at all. In fact, Zheng Shanhe's training method was most suitable for military academy students. After all, a real battle on the battlefield was a game between one side attacking and the other defending. After nearly 5 minutes of fighting, the two sides were tied. The crowd of students cheered, and many students flocked to Zheng Shanhe. This uncle began to demonstrate his swordsmanship to the students on the sidelines. In fact, this was essentially unfair. The students only flocked to the instructor, but no one cared about the sparring partners. It was as if the sparring partners were just attendants. At this moment, Gu Yang unrolled the scroll and said, "The third round, spear training. Gold Star instructor Zhao Jin against Silver Star sparring master Shi Zhonghai." Shi Zhonghai was one of the few mounted commanders amongst the sparring instructors. He lifted his iron spear and leapt onto his horse. After entering the training grounds, he cupped his hands towards Zhao Jin from afar and said with a smile, "Lord Zhao Jin, please show mercy." Heh. A sinister smile flashed across Zhao Jin's lips, but he did not reply. "Go." Shi Zhonghai gave a low shout and charged forward with his spear. His speed was extremely fast, and Zhao Jin also charged towards him. Both sides attacked at almost the same time. Zhao Jin's pear blossom spear instantly turned into a pear blossom that bloomed in the air. In just an instant, the pear blossom spear's blade was stained with fresh blood, and Shi Zhonghai let out a miserable groan as his abdomen was pierced by the pear blossom spear. Fresh blood dripped down. Zhao Jin shook his spear and instantly shook Shi Zhonghai to the ground. Shi Zhonghai let out a heart-wrenching howl. Blood flowed continuously from his abdomen, but it did not seem to be fatal. Lei Hong frowned and said, "Medical officer." Several medical officers immediately went to treat Shi Zhonghai. Lei Hong cupped his hands towards Qin Hao beside him and said, "I've let Lord Qin Hao see a joke." Qin Hao's expression was calm as he said, "Fighting on the battlefield has always been a bloody affair, so how could it be a joke? Besides, these cadets will one day become blood-soaked generals on the battlefield. It's good for them to see the cruelty of war sooner rather than later." At this time, Zhao Jin turned his horse around and walked back. Holding the blood-stained pear blossom spear, he smiled and said, "Head Deacon, your subordinate has accidentally injured Lord Shi Zhonghai just now. I am truly sorry. However, my true spear techniques on horseback have yet to be displayed. How about Head Deacon send another strong sparring partner to spar with me?" On the viewing platform, a group of generals with flaming emblems on their shoulders stood up, raised their arms and laughed. "Right? Send an even stronger sparring partner. We want to see the true spear techniques of the temple's #1 spear." This? Lei Hong frowned and said, "This Zhao Jin." In the arena, Zhao Jin raised his spear and said loudly, "Head Deacon, the temple's strongest sparring partner is Lord Lin Ji. Your subordinate has long wanted to spar with Lord Lin Ji. How about we do it today? Please grant this subordinate's wish, Head Deacon." More and more people started to heckle, and there were even some students who were shouting, "Lord Lin Ji, please accept the challenge. Lord Lin Ji, please accept the challenge." Lei Hong had originally planned to protect Lin Muyu, not letting him encounter Zhao Jin. But now he could no longer protect him. As the saying goes, it's best not to offend the anger of the masses. With so many people asking for Lin Muyu to fight, this battle was inevitable. "Linji," Lei Hong said from afar, "are you willing to fight Lord Zhao Jin? If you are not willing, I will not force you. After all, you have already fought today. According to the rules, no one can force you to fight a second time." Lin Muyu's gaze stopped on Shi Zhonghai, who was lying on the ground. Yet another sparring partner had suffered such humiliation. It seemed that the status of sparring partners in the temple had never changed. In the next moment, his gaze became resolute, and he cupped his fists and said, "Head Deacon, I am willing to fight, but you must promise me one thing. Allow me to attack." "What is it?" Lei Hong was stunned. Qin Hao was also stunned. He smiled and stood up, saying, "Interesting. I never thought that there would be such a heroic youth in the temple. Lord Lei Hong, I think, why don't you grant it?" Allow Lin Ji to attack. Even if he injures his opponent, he cannot be punished. How about it? Lei Hong gritted his teeth, saying, "Fine. The two of you better not hurt each other. Otherwise I will not let you off lightly." "Yes." Lin Muyu urged his horse forward, and with a dang sound he pulled out the burning prairie sword. Do Qi slowly poured in, and the burning prairie sword's flames grew brighter, causing the students to click their tongues in wonder. Many of them were dumbfounded. What a powerful aura. This sparring partner is not bad. From afar, Zhao Jin held his spear horizontally across his chest and smiled, saying, "Lord Lin Ji, please enlighten me." His eyes were filled with killing intent. Lin Muyu actually knew that this person was from the Divine Marquis Palace, and the people on the stage who were clamoring for her to fight were also from the Divine Marquis Palace. These people were the generals of the Divine Might Battalion. This was a trap, and they were waiting for her to jump into it. In truth, these people also knew that she was only a level 60 Heavenly Master, and Zhao Jin was a level 70 Heavenly King. In their eyes, she was definitely not Zhao Jin's match, right? Coming! Zhao Jin was the first to attack. He urged his horse and charged forward with his pear blossom spear. Chapter 95. Xiu. With a piercing sound, the pear blossom spear transformed into a streak of cold light as it headed straight for Zhao Jin's chest. Seeing this, Lin Muyu hurriedly dodged and used the burning prairie sword to block the attack. At the same time, she steered her horse to the side to dodge. However, just as the pear blossom spear was about to come into contact with the sword's edge, Zhao Jin suddenly shook the spear's shaft. Instantly, battle qi erupted from the tip of the spear and directly surged towards the burning prairie sword. This was the move that Zhao Jin had used to injure Shi Zhonghai. Dang! Zhao Jin's pear blossom spear had a green flood dragon coiled around its shaft. That was his martial soul, and it could greatly increase the force of impact. Furthermore, Lin Muyu's strength was already inferior to her opponent's to begin with. Naturally, she wasn't able to gain any advantage. As the horse passed by her, she suddenly felt a tremor behind her. Zhao Jin had actually turned around and used the shaft of his spear to strike the wall of the gourd. Pang! Zhao Jin's strength was simply too strong. Furthermore, his horsemanship skills were above Lin Muyu's. He quickly turned his horse around and thrust his spear forward. This was already the second attack. With a piu sound, a hole was pierced through the black tortoise's shell. Killing intent flashed across Zhao Jin's eyes as the flood dragon on the spear suddenly opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of frost. Lin Muyu hurriedly retreated, but it was already too late. She could only raise her left arm and form 5 layers of qi armor in an attempt to block the frost. However, who would have thought that the frost would be able to pass through the gourd and qi armor and directly attack her body? In the next moment, her entire left arm was numb and covered in frost. For a short period of time, she had already lost the ability to fight. The burning prairie sword in her right hand hurriedly swept across. She had to seize this opportunity to prevent Zhao Jin from attacking again. Otherwise, she would be in danger. However, what Lin Muyu didn't expect was that Zhao Jin's horsemanship skills could be said to be top-notch. Lying down on his horse, he dodged the sword and suddenly stabbed out with his pear blossom spear. Pooh! It pierced straight into Lin Muyu's right shoulder, leaving a bloody hole in his shoulder. Zhao Jin swiftly pulled out the spear that was stained with the blood of both Lin Muyu and Shi Zhonghai. Without saying a word, he struck out with his spear again. His strength was too strong, and even the mystic tortoise shell and dragon scale wall could not block the pear blossom spear. In an instant, Lin Muyu was at an absolute disadvantage. Zhao Jin hurriedly urged his horse to retreat to avoid this fatal spear, but the price he had to pay was that Zhao Jin suddenly shook his pear blossom spear and sent the prairie fire sword flying. Pa! The burning prairie sword spun rapidly in the air and stabbed into the sand dozens of meters away. Zhao Jin's face was filled with a sinister smile. Both your arms have been crippled and you've lost your weapons. What else can you do? In the stands, Lei Hong abruptly stood up and shouted, Zhao Jin, you've already won. Stuff. Zhao Jin, however, did not care about all this. With a flash of his pear blossom spear, he urged his horse forward, and the flood dragon martial soul encircled his body with frost. He had already decided to kill his opponent with a single strike. The students at the side of the stands were also shocked. When had they ever seen such an intense fight? It's over. That gold star sparring master is about to be killed. All the students had the same thought. Some were worried about Lin Muyu, while others were waiting for the scene of blood splattering everywhere. Right at this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly opened her right palm, and streams of blood flowed down her fingers. At the same time, her battle energy transformed into streaks of lightning that scuttled on the ground. The lightning rapidly wrapped around the sword hilt in the distance, and with a schwa sound, the burning prairie sword was pulled out from the ground. Without even holding onto the sword, she directly struck at Zhao Jin's back. Zhao Jin was just about to raise his spear and kill when he suddenly felt a surge of killing intent from behind him. He had to be on guard. He quickly turned around, only to see the dense lightning wrapped around the burning prairie sword. Not good. He hurriedly raised his pear blossom spear to block, but it was too late. Lin Muyu's attack was too fast and fierce, and did not give him much time to prepare. He did not even have time to fully hold onto the spear shaft. Under the fierce attack of the lightning sword, the pear blossom spear actually flew out of his hands. Zhao Jin's face was full of shock, and the surrounding students were also dumbfounded. One of them took a few steps back, his face full of shock. It's the Imperial Sword technique. My God, this gold star sparring master is actually well versed in the Imperial Sword technique. You're asking for death. Zhao Jin flew into a rage out of humiliation. He suddenly pulled out the sword at his waist, and with a heavy blow, he knocked the burning prairie sword away. He turned around and charged at Lin Muyu. He had already reached the point where if he did not kill Lin Muyu, he would not have the face to continue staying in the holy sanctum. However, when he turned around, he saw that Lin Muyu's injured palm was slightly opened, and his battle chi was transformed into flames. Streams of flames whistled and spiraled, controlling the burning prairie sword from afar. The long sword screamed and spun in the air, and the sound of the sword was extremely sharp. Lin Muyu's face was somewhat pale. He opened his palm slightly, and the burning prairie sword went straight for Zhao Jin, flames spiraling break. He had only transformed his battle chi into flames, and did not use the true dragon essence fire. If not, Qin Hao and the other strong martial artists would have been able to see through him. It was not a good thing to expose his own strength too much. Zhao Jin gave it his all. He held his sword horizontally in front of his chest, and the flood dragon martial spirit whistled and lingered around him, forming a barrier. His eyes were filled with anger as he said, "Lin Yi, you lowly commoner, aren't you the holy sanctum's strongest defense? Come, test out your grandfather Zhao Jin's defense." His actions were exactly what Lin Muyu wanted. With a push of his palm, the flames spiraling break shot out at full speed. Dang! A crisp sound, and Zhao Jin's sword shattered. However, Zhao Jin was after all a heavenly king stage powerhouse, and his reaction speed was not ordinary. As soon as he knew that he could not defend against it, he fell back onto his horse. In the end, the burning prairie sword flew past his nose, just barely managing to not take his life. As Zhao Jin flipped himself up, he saw Lin Muyu's angry eyes at close range. With a pa sound, Lin Muyu used his injured arm to grab the sword hilt, and the sharp edge of the burning prairie sword pressed against Zhao Jin's right armpit, gently lifting it up. Gotcha! The next moment, Zhao Jin's heart-rending scream rang out as his entire arm flew into the air. Lin Muyu waved her sword, and her battle chi burst into flames. With a huala sound, the flame sword chi instantly destroyed Zhao Jin's broken arm. Turning around, she pulled out Zhao Jin's pear blossom spear from the ground, before urging her horse towards the stage. Lei Hong stared with his mouth agape. He could not stop what was happening in time, and when he reached the edge of the stage, he saw Lin Muyu's injured arm drooping at his side, his battle chi melting the frost on his left arm. Holding the pear blossom spear, he cupped his fists with difficulty and said, I'm sorry, Great Deacon. I accidentally injured Sir Zhao Jin's arm, and I will bear all the punishment. However, Sir Zhao Jin wanted to kill me, but was defeated by me. According to the Empire's rules, his pear blossom spear belongs to me, right? Lei Hong sighed. The conflict between the temple and the Divine Marquis Mansion seemed to have deepened because of this weapons tempering day. Qin Hao stood up and looked at Lin Muyu, smiling faintly as he said, "This kid has guts, and his courage is not bad. I like it. Sir Lei Hong, why don't you let our Ares College have this gold star sparring master Linji? We are lacking an instructor with such strength. How could Reihum bear to let go of this precious treasure? Lin Muyu could even defeat Zhao Jin. Among the instructors and sparring partners of the Sage Sanctum, he was already the number one. Furthermore, he was blessed by the heavens. Such a talent could not be given to Ares College even if he was beaten to death. Dean, you must be joking, Lei Hong laughed. Lin Ji is a sinner of the temple. I cannot let him stay in Zhangjin College and harm your students. As he said this, he cleared his throat and announced loudly, the trial results, Lin Ji wins. However, Lin Ji has injured someone too severely, so he will be punished with 7 days of closed-door reflection. Men, bring Sir Zhao Jin to treat his injuries. Zhao Jin had already fainted on the ground. Qin Hao looked at Zhao Jin from afar and could not help but laugh. The Divine Marquis Constabulary's man had his right arm cut off, and his severed limb was crushed by Lin Ji. This kid is ruthless and courageous. I am afraid the temple will not be able to bear the consequences this time. Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan is not a pushover. Reihum looked at this gloating old friend and said, don't be so happy here. After all, this happened in Ares College, and our Divine Temple lost a gold star instructor. This debt must be placed on your head. According to the law, Ares College should compensate the Divine Temple 240,000 gold hub coins. However, on account of our friendship, I will wait for you to send the 200,000 gold hub coins to me in the Divine Temple. Qin Hao was stunned. You are actually talking about money with me? We have been friends for decades, and you are talking about money with me? Moreover, Ares College is just a small town. Where do you get so much money from? Come on, the Empire subsidizes Ares College by 2 million Jin Hun coins every year. Don't think I don't know, otherwise, where would you get the money to purchase weapons, war horses, and even your cavalry of 3,000? Don't hide it from me, pay me back. All right. You are not young anymore, but your temper is still so bad. After returning to the sparring team, Lin Muyu took out some healing medicine and sprinkled it on her wound to speed up the healing process. Her face was a little pale. After all, her wound was quite serious, and the pear blossom spear that was imbued with her martial soul was not easy to deal with. Congratulations, Lin Ji, you have defeated Zhao Jin. Qin Xiling said with a smile. What's there to congratulate? Lin Muyu laughed bitterly. I just poked a hornet's nest. Ma Lin smiled and said, Lin Ji, you have fought hard for us sparring masters. Don't be so humble. From today onwards, you will be the number one person in our temple. Sigh. Lin Muyu did not know whether to be happy or unhappy. She lifted her head and saw that all the generals of the Divine Might Battalion had a murderous look on their faces. She had indeed poked a hornet's nest. Xiling, what is the background of the Divine Might Battalion? He asked in a low voice. Qin Xiling said, Divine Might Battalion? Oh, that is the private army of the Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan. Among all the ministers in the empire, only Zheng Yifan is allowed to raise a private army because of his outstanding military achievements. The Divine Might Battalion has a total of 5,000 people, and they are all strong soldiers who have been through hundreds of battles. I heard that there are more than 10 of them who have reached the Heaven Realm. It is said that the Divine Might Battalion is currently the most elite troop in the world. 5,000 of them are enough to defeat Feng Jixing's 30,000 Imperial Guards. However, this is only a rumor. No one knows how powerful the Divine Might Battalion is. Lin Muyu was stunned. Even Big Brother Feng's 30,000 Imperial Guards are no match for them? That is too exaggerated. Qin Xiling smiled slightly. I'm not too sure myself. I have only heard about it. However, within the imperial capital's sphere of influence, these two forces are the most tyrannical. One is the Divine Might Battalion, and the other is the Imperial Guards. The Imperial Guards are in charge of protecting the Emperor, while the Divine Might Battalion is in charge of protecting Zheng Yifan. These two forces are constantly in conflict within the imperial capital. Fights are a common occurrence. Basically, everyone knows that they look down on each other. I see, the waters of the imperial capital were too deep. Chapter 96. Master Lin Ji, your dinner has been placed outside the door. The voice of a servant came from outside. Lin Muyu slowly opened his eyes. The light in his eyes gradually dissipated and returned to their original clarity. This was the third day of his closed-door reflection. In fact, he had not been idling for the past 3 days. He had been practicing the dragon forging bone remnant scroll. This remnant scroll was very mysterious. The more he practiced, the more Lin Muyu could clearly feel his Do Qi growing stronger. However, he did not dare to slack off. After all, he had almost died in the trial 3 days ago. Zhao Jin had lost because he had underestimated his opponent. After being knocked away by the thunderous frenzy, he had underestimated his opponent and used his own defense to challenge Lin Muyu's strongest penetrating attack. If Zhao Jin had really faced him head-on, the one who would have died would have been Lin Muyu. After all, Zhao Jin had the advantage in horsemanship and spear skills. Horsemanship and spear skills still needed to be learned from the instructors in the Divine Temple. They could not be rushed. Now, he needed more power to fight against the hidden enemy. The battle at the Dragon's Tomb had made Lin Muyu understand the difference between him and the Sanctuary. This difference could not be made up with hard work in a short period of time. Only by obtaining more power from the mysterious soul could he be invincible. After dinner, he returned to the secret room and entered the state of one with the mind. His spiritual sense slowly condensed, and he slowly entered a state of selflessness. His spiritual sense turned into a stream of light and entered his Yi-Hai. His Yi-Hai was chaotic. Sometimes it was a raging sea with billowing waves, sometimes it was a mountain range, and sometimes it was an empty darkness. Looking down, the darkness turned into an ocean with thousands of layers of waves. Whoosh! Lin Muyu's spiritual sense quickly turned into his real body. Wearing the Divine Temple's battle robe, he appeared in his Will See. This was the first time he had tried to turn into his real body, and he actually succeeded. Since he was in the Will See, it was like a dream. His real body controlled the power to fly. The wind howled, causing his battle robe to flutter. He closed his eyes and felt the tyrannical power below him. He jumped down, pulled out the burning prairie sword, and pierced into the sea like a sharp sword. Bang! Under the stimulation of the ice-cold seawater, he opened his eyes. However, the moment he opened his eyes, the area below him turned into a mountain range. He rushed down without slowing down. With a slight shake of his arm, the burning prairie sword struck the ground with the combat energy of the spiral break. The green mountains and clear waters on the ground actually began to distort. Under the guidance of the burning prairie sword's ears, it flew downwards. Suddenly, everything turned dark. This was a dark and chaotic space. Sunlight shone down from above and shone on a blurry figure. Lin Muyu slowly descended and stood on the soft ground. She looked at the person in front of her. This person's body seemed to be on fire. The burning flames were slowly burning his body into sparks, and the sparks soared into the sky. 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor. This wound should be the result of being burned by the furnace. It seemed like the damage to the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor's soul was very substantial. Lin Muyu gripped the burning prairie sword tightly and said, 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor, this doesn't feel good, right? You tried to take over my body in the past, but now you have become a soul imprisoned in my body. How pitiful! The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor slowly raised his head. Half of his face had been burned off by the furnace, and his flesh and blood were turning into sparks. It looked extremely terrifying. He suddenly grinned and said, Brat, what are you doing here? Do you think you are the winner? Dream on, it's not the end yet. I was wrong about you. So you have such a powerful flame refining ability. However, as long as you can't kill me, I will have the chance to take over your body again. At that time, I will make you wish you were dead. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. If you want to suffer less under my imprisonment, then answer my questions honestly. Ah, the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor raised his head and laughed wildly for a few seconds. He looked down at him and said, Speak, what do you want from me? Why can't I control the power of the Seven Luminaries' profound energy? Lin Muyu asked. With just you? The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor laughed again. His laughter shook the entire E-High space and said, I have spent my entire life to understand the secret art of the Seven Luminaries' profound energy. This power is unprecedented and invincible. Even that old ghost Qin Yi died under the Seven Luminaries' profound energy. You want to control the Seven Luminaries' profound energy? Lin Muyu opened his left hand and the flame refining immediately appeared. It continued to burn the body of the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor. Answer my questions. Don't make personal attacks. It's boring. He said indifferently. Ah, the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor, this incomparable demon king, screamed endlessly. His entire body was drenched in sweat. He then said leisurely, You stinking brat, I'll tell you. The Seven Luminaries' profound energy is a kind of power that comes from the soul. If you want to control the Seven Luminaries' profound energy, you need a strong enough soul. With your soul that is as weak as a chicken, you can only control the first of the Seven Luminaries at most. This is also the reason why you forcefully used the Two Luminaries demon dance and suffered a backlash. Is my soul very weak? As weak as a chicken? Shut up. Lin Muyu's body trembled. He was afraid that he would receive the title of Weak Chicken Lin. He suppressed his anger and continued to ask, Then how can I increase the strength of my soul? The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor was silent for a few seconds. He said, If you release my imprisonment, this emperor can consider taking you in as a disciple and teach you the entire set of the Seven Luminaries' profound energy. Stop dreaming. Lin Muyu's voice was very calm. Even though I desire power, I will never do something like asking a tiger for its skin. You can forget about stepping out of my EC for the rest of your life. Don't worry, I have a way to make you submit. As he said this, he suddenly stomped his feet. The entire EC space became a furnace for refining treasured weapons. Flames rose from all directions and burned the body of the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor. Ah! In the midst of his miserable howl, the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor's body was continuously burned to ashes. However, he had long cultivated the Demon Emperor's undying body. Thus, new flesh and blood were constantly growing out and then being burned away. This process repeated over and over again. It was a tragic sight. Now, give me the complete Seven Luminaries' profound energy. Lin Muyu said with an icy cold gaze. The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor softly knelt on the ground. His voice was very weak. You're torturing me like this, it's too inhumane, what a joke. You're a homicidal maniac. What humanity is there to talk about? This is just a judgment of justice. Lin Muyu had a shameless look on his face. He held onto the hilt of his sword and walked forward step by step. He said lightly, Moreover, you want to kill me at any time. So no matter what I do to you, it is not considered excessive. This is the principle of my style of doing things. Is that so? The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor slowly raised his head. Suddenly, flames surged out of his eyes. The ground slowly trembled. The ground under his feet quickly cracked open and blue stars appeared. The Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor laughed loudly. He suddenly raised his palm and a bright star quickly condensed. He cackled and said, Who do you think you are? You dare to enter the EC and challenge me? You're courting death, idiot. Lin Muyu secretly cursed and hurriedly retreated. He did not expect the Seven Luminaries Demon Emperor to be able to launch a counterattack in his own refining cauldron. Weng! The power of heaven and earth surged. It was the supreme power of the seven glorious stars transformation. Lin Muyu hurriedly shouted and summoned his martial soul. The mystic tortoise shell and dragon scale wall were activated. His palms controlled 5 pieces of chi armor to protect himself. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in front of him. The power of the seven glorious stars transformation burst forth. It was as if countless stars had completed the fission and explosion in an instant. The monstrous destructive power attacked and actually destroyed the mystic tortoise shell, dragon scale wall and other defensive shields in an instant. It's over. My body is going to be taken over. Lin Muyu's heart turned cold. At this moment, he suddenly heard a voice in his ear. Brother, you're really too willful. Shua. His body seemed to be dragged out of the bottom of the EC. After experiencing a burst of cool water, he had already flown out of the attack range of the seven glorious stars transformation. Lin Muyu turned his head to look. The beautiful female elf official, Lulu, was flapping her wings and pulling him along as she flew. Lulu ha Lulu. He was ecstatic that he had escaped death. Lulu turned to look at him. She pouted and scolded. The spiritual power of the seven luminaries demon emperor is too strong. It could control your body at any time. You actually dared to enter the EC with your spiritual sense to die. Brother, you really don't know your limits? Alright, I didn't know before. And hurry up and get out. If your spiritual sense enters the EC for too long, it will cause serious harm to your body. Lin Muyu leaped and broke through the sky. His spiritual sense returned to his body. He slowly opened his eyes, but his whole body was already covered in cold sweat. It was just a few minutes, but it felt like a few centuries. Spiritual sense. But how to cultivate the spiritual sense? Actually, Lin Muyu also knew that the seven luminaries demon emperor was in his body. The power of the seven luminaries demon emperor could be refined using the crafting cauldron. What he needed to do the most was to strengthen the power of the spiritual sense. Otherwise, even if he cultivated the seven luminaries demon emperor, he would not be able to use it. He did not want to use the seven luminaries demon emperor again at the cost of his life. Lulu, do you know how to cultivate the spiritual sense? He asked. Lulu quickly flew out of his body. She shook her head and said, I don't know, but brother can ask Lei Hong. This old man is well-read. He should know a thing or two. Lin Muyu stood up and looked to the side. Zhao Jin's pear blossom spear was still there, glowing faintly in the darkness. This pear blossom spear was a mysterious grade weapon. The spear shaft and the spear blade were made of rare metals. However, the effect of refining souls was not good. The beast's soul contained within it was not more than 4,000 years old. It was a waste of such a good metal. When he had the time, he could find a suitable spirit stone to refine the soul again. This way, the pear blossom spear would definitely be a rare divine weapon. Opening the door of the secret chamber, a few temple guards were standing guard. One of them said politely, Master Lin Ji, you are still in 7 days of closed-door reflection. You cannot go out. I know. I would like to ask you to invite head deacon Lei Hong over. Tell him that I have a question to ask. Yes, master. The temple guard was very respectful. He probably knew that Lin Muyu had defeated Zhao Jin in Ares College. In this world, martial arts were respected. In the eyes of these people, Lin Muyu was undoubtedly a strong person worthy of respect. Not long after, Lei Hong pushed open the door and entered. He smiled and said, You, how are you doing here? Chapter 97. It's not good or bad, it's just too empty. Lin Muyu said, Fortunately, I've been training so I can get through it. Don't worry, Grandpa Lei Hong. Lei Hong laughed. Brat, you broke Zhao Kuang's arm, so he won't be able to use a spear for the rest of his life. Our Divine Temple's #1 spear became useless in your hands, and you still have the nerve to complain to me. Tell me, why did you call me here? It's like this. Lin Muyu thought for a moment, then asked, Grandpa Lei Hong, do you know about soul? Soul? Lei Hong was slightly startled, then said, "Yes, soul will become stronger as the martial artist's cultivation increases. This is something that happens naturally. What's wrong, you? I want to train my soul alone. Is there any way? Train your soul alone?" Lei Hong could not help but laugh. I've never heard of anyone who would train their soul alone. The strength of the soul is complementary to the cultivation. Then, is there a way to do it alone? There is. Lei Hong furrowed his brows and said, "I've heard that there was an extraordinary person hundreds of years ago who created a set of secret arts to cultivate mental strength. However, after he cultivated it, his soul became too strong, and his sense of smell and hearing were hundreds of times stronger than ordinary people's. In the end, he went insane and committed suicide by jumping into the river. Therefore, no one has studied his so-called secret arts ever since." What the? Lin Muyu was startled, but after thinking about it carefully, once she mastered the seven luminaries' profound force, the seven luminaries' profound force would consume a lot of her soul power, so it shouldn't cause her mental disorder. So, she asked, "Can I still find this secret art of his?" "It should be possible. There are millions of books in the Zetian Palace's library, so it should not be a problem to find a third-grade martial art." As he spoke, Lei Hong looked at Lin Muyu seriously. Are you sure you won't go insane from cultivating this martial art?" "I won't, don't worry, Grandpa." "That's good." Before dusk, Lei Hong sent someone to deliver an ancient book that was already yellow and about to fall off. 3 words could be vaguely seen on it in small seal script. Spirit Pulse Technique. Holding the Spirit Pulse Technique, Lin Muyu studied it for an entire night and memorized more than 20,000 words. The so-called Spirit Pulse was actually to merge one's spiritual sense with the surroundings, harmonizing with nature. Through the air, temperature, and energy in the surroundings, one could increase one's spiritual force cultivation. Just as Lei Hong had said, the Spirit Pulse technique was a third-rate martial technique. Without sufficient cultivation, cultivating the Spirit Pulse technique could indeed drive one crazy. However, Lin Muyu was different. He had already stepped into the heaven realm, and his soul was already very strong. In addition, he had tempered his skin, honed his bones, cleansed his marrow, and possessed the bloodline of the true dragon. Even if his spiritual sense was improved a little, it would not be a problem. At night, lying on the bed, he quietly spread his spiritual sense out. As expected, he could feel the pulse of sound. About 500 meters away, there were 2 people, one heavy and one light. Neither of them spoke. It should be Qin Xiling and Zhang Wei, because one of the aura overflowing from their bodies was strong and the other weak. The strong aura was more violent, while the weak aura was more gentle. There was no doubt that it was the 2 of them. Knock, knock. A few minutes later, there was a knock on the door. Zhang Wei laughed out loud. "Lord Lin Ji, Xiling and I have brought wine and meat to see you." Lin Muyu got up and opened the door to let the 2 of them in. As expected, the 2 of them were carrying wine and meat. He immediately smiled and said, "You've come. Come in and take a seat. There's no need to be polite." Zhang Wei naturally would not be polite. He brought a roasted chicken and a deer leg, while Qin Xiling brought some cooked vegetables and 2 jars of good wine. After putting down the 2 jars, the 3 of them ate and chatted. That bastard Zhao Jin, he actually said that he wanted to practice the sword with one hand, and one day he will personally kill you. Zhang Wei said while spitting saliva. His face was flushed red and he looked angry. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Let him be. Zhao Jin is already a cripple. Qin Xiling said, "Lin Ji, when you go out, you must be careful. I heard from the people outside that the Divine Might Battalion has spread the word that as long as they find a chance, they will definitely cut you into 8 pieces." Divine Might Battalion? Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Forget it, I knew that I would definitely offend the Divine Might Battalion. Zhen Fang will not let me off so easily." Zhang Wei patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, as long as you are in the temple, no one can do anything to you, right?" Zhang Wei smiled mysteriously and said, "Master Lin Ji, after you defeated Zhao Jin, the entire Lanyan city has been filled with rumors about you. They all say that you are already the #1 person in the younger generation of the temple, and that you are comparable to the Imperial Guard Commander Feng Jixing, the Imperial Guard Commander Qin Lei, and the others. How can that be? Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Feng Jixing and Qin Lei are both favored by the heavens. I was just lucky to defeat Zhao Jin. What's more, they are all commanders with thousands of troops under their control. What am I? Zhang Wei smiled slightly. Military power? Actually, if you want military power, it is very simple. As long as you decide to leave the temple, I believe that many armies within the empire will be willing to accept you. With your cultivation, becoming a Yin-Yang commandant or something is not a problem. Let's not talk about this, let's drink. Lin Muyu felt a little annoyed for no reason. Even if he became a commander, he would still have to face many enemies, and he would not be able to sleep or eat in peace. Alright, let's drink. In the blink of an eye, another few days passed, and finally, the 7 days of confinement were up. When Lin Muyu walked out of the secret room, he had already achieved some small success in the spirit pulse technique, and he stood in the courtyard feeling refreshed. What? He clenched his fist, and milky white dough qi surrounded his fist. He lightly circulated his energy, and the power of the chaotic star of the common life immediately appeared in his palm. It was the color of blood. The so-called chaotic star of the common life was war, and the power of this move was powerful and domineering. It was the power of the 7 luminaries' Shen energy that he could use most freely. Taking a deep breath, he slowly increased the strength of his dou qi, and Lin Muyu shouted, 2 luminaries demonic dance. Buzz. The air around him surged, and a black demonic aura appeared in his palm. That was the power of the 2 luminaries' demonic dance. As expected, practicing the spirit pulse technique was very effective. Controlling the power of the 2nd luminaries wasn't very strenuous. As for the 3rd luminaries, after 7 days of refining, he had already refined the profound meaning of the 3rd luminaries from the soul of the 7 luminaries demon emperor. However, when Lin Muyu raised his dou qi and wanted to activate the 3rd luminaries, he felt intense pain all over his body. His arms were full of veins, and his dantian felt like it was about to explode. In the end, his soul still couldn't withstand the power of the 3rd luminaries. He let out a deep breath, and gave up on forcing the 3 luminaries' calamity. Let it be. After all, he would practice the spirit pulse technique every day, and who knows, he might be able to easily control the 3rd luminaries one day. Furthermore, his current cultivation was already very shocking. Lin Muyu was actually very confident in his heart. He could basically defeat any Heaven Realm expert that didn't exceed level 70. Gu Yang held the temple's scroll as he passed through the courtyard. From afar, he said with a smile, "Your confinement has been lifted. This morning is the temple's recruitment day. As a Gold Star sparring master, you should participate." "Yes, Grandpa Gu Yang." He took a few quick steps forward, and quickly tidied up his armor. The temple's battle robe suited him very well, and looked very good. Even Gu Yang couldn't help but take a few more glances at it. He sighed lightly. When he was young, he didn't have the qualifications to wear this battle robe. In the temple's main hall, a group of instructors and sparring masters stood on 2 sides. Rei Hong personally presided over the ceremony for the newcomers to enter the temple. "Lord Lin Ji, you're here?" Zhang Wei smiled as he greeted. Lin Muyu smiled slightly, and stood opposite Zhang Wei. The group of Silver Star, Copper Star and Iron Star instructors and sparring masters behind him naturally looked at him with respect. In fact, both Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei were Gold Star, and their status in the temple was no longer the same as when they first entered the temple. "Let the ceremony begin," Rei Hong said indifferently. Gu Yang unfurled the scroll, and with an aged and trembling voice, he said, "Today, there are a total of 14 people who will enter the temple. First place in the trial, Qin Yan, descendant of the royal family, level 62 Heavenly Sovereign, Martial Soul, Dragon Scale, will be stationed as a Gold Star instructor, monthly salary $200. Second place in the trial, Li Mingyi, Commoner, level 59 Battle Saint, will be stationed as a Gold Star instructor, monthly salary 80 Jin dollars. Third place in the trial, Lei Manjiang, commoner, level 55 battle saint, will be stationed as a Gold Star instructor, monthly salary 50 Jin dollars. When Gu Yang announced half of the names of the 14 people who would enter the temple, Lin Muyu had already noticed a young man at the front of the group. He had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and was rather handsome. However, there was an indescribable arrogance between his brows. This brat seemed to look a little similar to Qin Lei. Thinking about it carefully, he seemed to be Qin Lei's younger brother, the legendary second son of Prince Jining, Qin Yan. Qin Yan also noticed Lin Muyu. Carrying a fiery red iron spear, he walked forward and asked with a smile, "You are Lin Ji?" "That's me. I've heard my brother mention you before, saying how powerful you are. Now that I look at you, you're only SOS." He raised his sword-like eyebrows and directly provoked him. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Qin Yan was Qin Lei's younger brother, so he couldn't be bothered to fuss over it. He cupped his fists and said, "There will be opportunities to spar in the future, little Duke." "Everyone be quiet," Lei Hong said solemnly and then said, "The 14 of you are now members of the temple. You must know that the temple is the sacred hall of all the martial artists in the world. During the period of training in the temple, no personal fights are allowed, and no killing is allowed. This is our basic iron law. All right, Deacon Gu Yang, read them the 74 laws of the temple." "Yes, great Deacon." When Gu Yang finished reading the 74 laws, everyone was already on the verge of falling asleep. Lei Hong immediately announced the dismissal. After lunch, they would officially begin the trial and sparring. And just as Lin Muyu turned around to go eat, Qin Yan's palm suddenly pressed on his shoulder and said with a smile, "Lin Ji, don't go yet. It won't be too late for us to have a meal after we determine a winner." Chapter 98. Little Prince. Lin Muyu turned around and said with a smile, "I know your elder brother, big brother Qin Lei. We both serve the holy temple. There will be plenty of chances to spar in the future. There's no rush right now, right?" Qin Yan's handsome face revealed a hint of a smile. "I know you're my brother's friend. Don't worry, I won't harm you in the slightest. I just want to verify just whose defense is the strongest in this holy temple." "Strongest defense?" "Yes." Qin Yan's appearance was not the same as Qin Lei's. He was a little more handsome. Holding the long spear in his hand, with a low roar, a golden dragon-shaped energy enveloped his body, gradually condensing on the holy temple battle ropes. He said with a smile, "You've also seen it. As a member of the Qin family, although I did not comprehend the god-binding chains of the true dragon bloodline, I have comprehended the dragon scale armor of my mother's family. The dragon scale armor is a third-grade defensive type tool spirit, known as the world's #1 defensive martial spirit. This is also the reason why I'm looking for you to spar." "Then how does little Prince wish to spar?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Qin Yan's face was still slightly immature. Scratching his head, he said with a smile, "How about this? In the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, we'll mutually attack each other. Whoever can break the other's martial spirit first will be considered the winner. How about it?" Lin Muyu thought about it and already had a plan in her heart. All right then." Qin Yan immediately raised his arm and said, "Deacon Gu Yang, please come over and be a witness for us. And that, Lord Zhang Wei, please come over and be a witness for the victory between me and big brother Lin Ji." Gu Yang had a helpless look. "Little Prince Qin Yan, this doesn't conform to the Holy Temple's rules. We prohibit private fights. We're only going to determine victory and defeat, not life and death. Deacon Gu Yang, don't worry." Zhang Wei cupped his fists and stood at the side, saying with a smile, "Lord Lin Ji, you have to fight for the Holy Temple's sparring masters." At this time, quite a number of people came after hearing the news. In the blink of an eye, over 20 people gathered at the side, and Gu Yang had already lit an incense stick, saying, "Regardless of victory or defeat, the battle must stop after the time it takes for an incense stick to burn." Lin Muyu and Qin Yan cupped their fists and saluted from a distance. In the next moment, Qin Yan suddenly shook the fire serpent spear in his hand. Immediately, dense flames covered the fire serpent spear. He was Qin Lei's younger brother. With regards to Qin Lei's strength, Lin Muyu was both respectful and fearful. This Qin Yan in front of him was presumably not much weaker than his older brother. Otherwise, he would not have come to challenge her. Clang! Unsheathing the prairie flame sword, Zhang Xian exhaled his dou qi and flames immediately gushed out from the sword. Without holding back, he charged forward and executed the triple slash of the wind-riding sword art. Bang, bang, bang. Dragon roars rose in a rhythmic manner. The dragon scale armor around Qin Yan's body reacted. The prairie flame sword's 3 successive strikes were indeed unable to injure the dragon scale armor in the slightest. Instead, it shook Lin Muyu's arm to the point of numbness. Furthermore, every strike felt as if it was striking a 10,000-year-old boulder. This dragon scale armor was known as the world's #1 defensive martial soul. It indeed deserved its reputation. No worries, I can still do it. No need to hold back. Qin Yan laughed loudly. With a shake of the metal spear in his hand, the beast's spirit with a fire serpent wrapped around it smashed onto the wall of Lin Muyu's gourd. Instantly, a tiny crack appeared on the outermost layer of the black tortoise armor. However, under the recovery effect, this tiny crack was rapidly repaired. Qin Yan was proficient in defensive combat techniques, and his offensive combat techniques could only be considered average. At the very least, he could not be compared to Zhao Jin's combat technique, which gave up on defense and focused on offense. Good gourd, interesting. Qin Yan's face flushed red. This brat was indeed a martial fanatic. With a clang, the heavy strike of the fire serpent spear sent Lin Muyu flying backwards. The long sword in her hand also flew out of her hand. Qin Yan quickly grabbed the opportunity, and with a thrust of his spear, he struck the hilt of the prairie flame sword, looking as if he wanted to send the prairie flame sword flying. However, right at this moment, bolts of lightning wreaked havoc in the air, tightly grabbing onto the prairie flame sword like an invisible hand. Furthermore, with a flash of lightning, the prairie flame sword rumbled over with dazzling lightning. Qin Yan did not know that Lin Muyu had grasped the 4-elemental imperial sword. He hurriedly took a step back, his feet piercing into the stone floor like iron pillars. The dragon scale armor shone with the resplendent light, and the 2 defensive abilities of Rock Wall plus Shield were added onto the dragon scale armor at the same time. With a bang, the prairie flame sword was sent flying, and a tiny crack appeared on the dragon scale armor. Lord Lin Ji, good job. Qin Xiling and the other sparring masters clapped their hands in delight. Qin Yan was also stunned. Then, shame and indignation climbed onto his face. With a shake of his arm, the chain of attacks of the fire serpent spear came in a threatening manner. Lin Muyu controlled the prairie flame sword to block through the air. Ding ding ding, sparks flew. This set of attacks was completely blocked by Lin Muyu with the wall of the gourd. Qin Yan's attacks were too swift and fierce. If she did not block, it would be very easy to be injured. Furthermore, Qin Yan was Qin Lei's younger brother, and was also considered one of them. Unless it was absolutely necessary, she could not injure him. In the blink of an eye, an incense stick of time was almost finished. Lin Muyu's mystic tortoise shell was already riddled with holes, and a large portion of the dragon scale wall was also damaged. However, the Forbidden Mother Tree's recovery ability was currently constantly transforming battle chi into the mystic tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall's defensive energy layer. Qin Yan's attacks had limited penetrative power, so he was naturally unable to defeat Lin Muyu. On the other hand, Lin Muyu only used Lightning Strike, Thunderous Frenzy, Imperial Wind Sword Art, and other sword arts to counterattack. She did not use True Dragon Essence Fire, Imperial Sword with Fire, or other moves with stronger destructive power. Therefore, she did not even manage to break through Qin Yan's shield armor. Lord Qin Yan, do your best. Many instructors who had just entered the Sacred Hall were all cheering for Qin Yan. They had entered the Sacred Hall with Qin Yan, and had long treated themselves as Prince Jining Palace's people. Therefore, they naturally would not stand on Lin Muyu's side. On the contrary, Guyang, Zhang Wei, and the others who were familiar with Lin Muyu's moves all had faint smiles on their faces. Because they could tell that even though Lin Muyu seemed to be at a disadvantage, he was actually going easy on Qin Yan. Because the strongest killing move he had relied on to defeat Zhao Jin, Imperial Sword with Fire, was not even used. However, they did not know that Lin Muyu still had an even stronger ultimate art, 7 Luminaries Profound Energy. Naturally, Lin Muyu did not dare to easily reveal the 7 Luminaries Profound Energy in front of the world. After all, the 7 Luminaries Profound Energy was too shocking. Furthermore, he did not know what kind of glorious history the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor had. If he were to reveal the 7 Luminaries Profound Energy, there was a high possibility that he would attract a fatal disaster. The incense has burned out, end of battle. Guyang used a trembling voice to announce and said, the degree of damage to Lord Lin Ji's defensive layer has surpassed Lord Qin Yan's. Therefore, in this competition, Lord Qin Yan should have a slight advantage. Overall, it can be considered a draw. Lin Muyu raised his finger, controlling the prairie-burning sword through the air to return to its sheath. He cupped his fists and said, Little Prince, thanks for going easy on me. Qin Yan's face flushed slightly red. Nobody would have thought that he was only an 18-year-old youth, even younger than Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. An 18-year-old youth already had the cultivation of the heaven realm. How terrifying was that? Big brother Lin Ji, actually, you won, I know. Qin Yan's personality was very straightforward. He cupped his fists and said, Qin Yan relied on the advantage of his bloodline and used the 3rd grade martial soul, dragon scale armor, to win against your 10th grade green gourd martial soul. This is not something to be proud of at all. In the future, when Qin Yan cultivates in the Holy Temple, I hope that big brother Lin Ji can give me some pointers. Lin Muyu could not help secretly praising him, and said with a smile, Little Prince is too courteous. You're still young. If you were the same age as me, and cultivate for another 3 to 5 years, I'm afraid I won't be your match at all. Receiving such praise, Qin Yan could not resist smiling joyfully. He scratched his head and said, Big brother Lin Ji, don't call me Little Prince anymore. You and my brother are friends, so naturally, you're also my, Qin Yan's, friend. You can just call me Qin Yan. Just call me by my name. The people in the Duke Manor are all like this. All right then. Lin Muyu was not some inflexible person either. She immediately said, Then I'll call you Qin Yan in the future. Let's eat. The Holy Temple's mealtime doesn't wait for people. If we go late, there won't be anything to eat. Okay. Qin Yan quickly caught up to Lin Muyu's pace, and said with a smile, Big brother Lin Ji, your sword arts are so powerful. Who did you learn it from? Lin Muyu knew what he wanted to do with a single glance at his longing expression. She said, Do you want to learn the Imperial sword arts? That's very difficult. Moreover, you major in defense. Why don't you spend more time researching how to raise the defense of the dragon scale armor? No, I want to learn. Qin Yan clenched his fists and said, The 6 arts of martial ancestor, sword, riding, spear, saber, axe, shooting. Among them, the sword is the most important. I've always wanted to learn a unique sword art, but the teachers my royal father invited for me are mostly people who deceive the world. Their imperial sword arts are weak and weak. As long as I'm bumped, I won't be able to continue using it. I also saw it just now. Big brother Lin Ji, your imperial sword arts are vigorous and powerful. Please teach me. This. Lin Muyu was still hesitating. He had already begun to teach Chu Yao the imperial sword arts. If he were to teach Qin Yan as well, it seemed like he could start his own sect and accept disciples. It didn't seem too good to let the sword elder know. Seeing Lin Muyu hesitate, Qin Yan became anxious and said, How about this? I can prepare a generous gift as the tuition fee for learning the imperial sword arts. 400,000 Jin Yin dollars. How about it? Plus, and a piece of beautiful jade from beyond the heavens. A precious tribute from the northern desert Khagans several hundred years ago. How about it? Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh and said, Qin Yen, you are big brother Qin Lei's younger brother. Don't think of me as a greedy person. Alright, I can teach you the most basic imperial sword arts, but only the most basic. Don't make me teach you anything else. You have to rely on your own comprehension. Qin Yen was wild with joy and nodded his head repeatedly. He immediately cupped his fists and bowed, saying, Many thanks, Big Brother Lin Ji. Due to Qin Yen calling him Big Brother, the people in the Holy Temple were all dumbstruck. Prince Jining's little prince actually acknowledged him as Big Brother in the Holy Temple. This seemed to further solidify Lin Muyu's position as the #1 person in the younger generation of the Holy Temple. In the afternoon, after the normal training, he taught Qin Yen a mnemonic chant for Imperial Sword with the Heart, letting him go cultivate on his own. Qin Yen was the same as his older brother, Qin Yen. After obtaining a mnemonic chant, he focused on learning in a room in the side hall. With his noble status, no one dared to disturb him either. Now that Lin Muyu was free, he directly left the Holy Temple. It was time to go visit Chu Yao in the spiritual medicine department. She hadn't seen this big sister for a long time. Her heart was so empty that she seemed to miss her quite a bit. Chapter 99. Black horse carriages transported medicinal ingredients into the spiritual medicine department. Dusk was the warehousing time for the spiritual medicine department. Large amounts of medicinal ingredients purchased from outside the city were being transported into the spiritual medicine department. Chu Yao and the other alchemists were in charge of refining these medicinal ingredients into high-grade healing medicines, gold wound medicine, stone skin medicine, etc., for the various armies of the empire to use. Lin Ji of the Divine Temple requests an audience with Miss Chu Yao of the Medicinal Medicine Department. At the registration area of the Spiritual Medicine Department, Lin Muyu said politely. The two guards recognized him. One of them smiled and said, It's Sir Lin Ji. Are you here to look for Miss Chu Yao again? Come in, no need to be so reserved. I heard that you defeated the Gold Star instructor Zhao Jin in the Ares College's public trial. That was really amazing. The entire capital is now talking about your legend. Is that so? Lin Muyu felt a little ashamed. She cupped her fists and smiled. I was just lucky. Thank you both. I'll be going in then? Go. Take good care of Miss Chu Yao. She is the #1 beauty of our spiritual medicine department. Many high-level alchemists and nobles wish to see her, but she seems to only want to see you. Lin Muyu stepped into the spiritual medicine department. She felt a warm feeling in her heart. The alchemy hall was brightly lit, and all the alchemists were busy refining their medicinal energy. From afar, they could see Chu Yao's graceful figure. Today, she was wearing a light green robe and looked like she was floating in the air. Sister Chu Yao. Lin Muyu's call caused Chu Yao's body to tremble. She turned to look at Lin Muyu and couldn't help smiling happily. You, how come you have the time to come see me? Didn't I hear that you were in confinement? Last time I wanted to go see you, I was refused by the guards of the temple. They said that no one can see you. How heartless. Lin Muyu naturally knew that Reiham was doing this to protect her. She walked up and sat on Chu Yao's refining table. She crossed her legs and said with a smile, How's your alchemy going recently? At the side, an old alchemist around 60 years old smiled and said, Miss Chu Yao is the youngest saint alchemist here. Alchemist saint? Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Sister Chu Yao, you can refine level 7 medicine? Chu Yao smiled shyly and nodded. That's great. Lin Muyu was excited. She jumped off the refining table and hugged Chu Yao. Chu Yao's beautiful face instantly flushed red. She whispered, There are so many alchemists watching. Oh, I'm sorry. I was too excited. Lin Muyu hurriedly put her down and apologized. It's nothing. Chu Yao's voice was a little soft. Her beautiful eyes didn't dare to look at Lin Muyu. She whispered, I thought you had already forgotten me after meeting Princess Shi and Her Highness Yin. How could that be? Even if Lin Muyu was a blockhead, he knew that Chu Yao was jealous. Although his heart was in a mess and he didn't know how to put these beauties in their positions, he still tried his best to appease each and every one of them, so he said, "Big sister Chu Yao will always be my good big sister. No matter what happens in the future, I will never forget you." "Alright, how did you advance so fast?" Chu Yao nodded and whispered, "Yes, it's because of the divine alchemy cannon. I have already repaired some of the damaged parts of the cannon. That's why I was able to become an alchemist saint so quickly. Grandpa has always wanted to become an alchemist saint. I didn't expect that I would achieve this wish in the end." Lin Muyu held her shoulders and said seriously, "If Grandpa knew your current cultivation, his spirit in heaven would definitely feel gratified. Moreover, Grandpa has already been avenged. He will be smiling in the netherworld." "Oh right, how is Sister Chu Yao's cultivation of the imperial sword technique?" Lin Muyu asked again. "Just mastering alchemy is far from enough. After all, if you want to live well in this world, you still need to have a strong fist." Chu Yao giggled and said, "The imperial sword technique? I can only control the sword through the air for now, but I still can't truly grasp the heart of the sword. Tell me, how did you grasp the heart of the sword in 2 days and 2 nights? I have been seriously cultivating for more than 10 days and still haven't grasped it." Well, Lin Muyu couldn't say that it was because of her martial talent. She rubbed the back of her head and said with a smile, "It's probably because I didn't do it right. Continue to work hard, you will eventually comprehend it. As long as Sister Chu Yao grasps the heart of the sword, I can teach you the 4-elemental imperial sword technique." As he said this, he thought for a moment and continued, "The 4-elemental imperial sword technique is enough to raise your martial cultivation by a level. At least it will give you the ability to protect yourself." Chu Yao held his hand, her eyes filled with joy. Her beautiful eyes swept up and down Lin Muyu's handsome appearance in the temple's battle robe. She said, "Our Yu is now an expert of the temple. Even a level 70 heavenly king like Zhao Jin was defeated. You really surprised me. Your strength is now almost at the level of Big Brother and Big Brother Feng Jixing, right?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little guilty. It was hard to say whether he could defeat Chu Huairan and Feng Jixing now. Feng Jixing's wind blade technique was elegant and domineering, while Chu Huairan's star-plucking finger was extraordinary. Furthermore, the two of them had never used their full strength against him before, so it was hard to say who would win. More importantly, Feng Jixing was the commander of the Imperial Guards, so he must have experienced many battles. In terms of battle experience alone, he probably surpassed Lin Muyu by a lot. So he smiled and said, "I don't know. Feng Jixing is a big brother that I will respect for my whole life. Chu Huairan is Sister Chu Yao's brother, so he is also my big brother. No matter who is stronger, I don't think we will have a chance to fight in this lifetime." Chu Yao smiled and said, "You haven't eaten yet, right? How about you eat with me tonight?" "Okay, it's my treat." "Okay." Chu Yao was now a medicine saint in the spiritual medicine department, so her salary wouldn't be bad. However, Lin Muyu's salary was even higher. As long as he was willing, he could quickly become rich in Lanyan City with his alchemy and weapon forging skills. However, money was just a number to him and didn't have any practical meaning. No matter how rich he was, his own strength was the most important thing. He brought Chu Yao to eat a delicious meal in a small alley on the side of Heaven's Passage Street. Afterwards, they went to the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce. At night, the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce was even more lively. Outside the Chamber of Commerce, there were many shops selling gems. They sold all sorts of beautiful gems. These things were the favorites of the noble madams and misses. Although Chu Yao was beautiful, she wasn't interested in these things. Instead, she was more interested in the long swords in the weaponry department. Lin Muyu saw this and said, "Sister Chu Yao, you don't need to be jealous of those weapons. I will forge a good enough weapon for you soon. Don't worry, let's go buy the materials now." The diamond card user's status was noble, so she quickly found the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, Jin Shaoing. This extremely beautiful young lady beamed with joy when she saw Lin Muyu. "Master Lin Ji, what do you need this time?" Her gaze landed on Chu Yao, revealing a trace of amazement, and said, "Wow, this time, Lord even brought a female companion." Cough, cough. Lin Muyu coughed, dispelling Chu Yao's awkwardness and said, "Miss Jean, this time I came to ask for some high-level spirit stones and ironware. If you have them, please introduce them to me." "Okay, do you have any specific requirements?" "I need an ice spirit stone with a long lifespan. The rest is up to you." "Okay." Jean Xiaotang swayed her little, but as she walked in front and said with a smile, "Master Lin Ji's luck is not bad. The Spirit Stone store just received a batch of top-grade spirit stones from Lingnan. It is said that there is a 11,000-year-old Frost Qilin spirit stone. I wonder if Master Lin Ji is willing to pay a high price for it?" "How much?" Jean Xiaotang raised 3 fingers and said with a smile, "I'll give you a discount, 30,000 Jinin dollars. How about that?" Lin Muyu looked at her inventory and said, "Not enough, I only have 20,000 Jinin dollars. Can I buy it on credit?" Jean Xiaotang giggled as her eyes shone with wisdom. "Then you must first tell me, what do you need these spirit stones for?" "Weapon forging." "Weapon forging?" Jean Xiaotang blinked, her face full of shock. "What grade of weapon can Master Lin Ji forge?" "Mysterious grade, very low, right?" Jean Xiaotang quickly shook her head and said, "If mysterious grade is still considered low, then I'm afraid the blacksmiths in the imperial capital will be embarrassed. How about this, I can buy it on credit, but Master Lin Ji has to give me a portion of the weapon after you forge it and let me sell it in the auction house. This will increase the competitiveness of our auction house. Is Master willing?" "Okay, no problem." There was nothing better than a business that cost nothing. Jean Xiaotang smiled happily. This was business. She had the treasures that Lin Ji needed, and Lin Ji had the mysterious weapon forging skills that Jean Xiaotang needed. The transaction was immediately completed. When the 11,000-year-old spirit stone landed in her hand, a faint chill lingered in her palm. Lin Muyu clicked her tongue in wonder. Although it's very expensive, it is indeed a very valuable spirit stone. Jean Xiaotang giggled. "Of course. I heard that a mercenary group from Lingnan sent over 2,000 people to hunt it down. More than 300 people died because of this ice Kirin, including a heavenly realm elite. Honestly, 30,000 Jin-in coins is too cheap. You can't raise the price just like that." Lin Muyu said warily. Jean Xiaotang couldn't help but smile. "Xiaotang is a businessman, and I am trustworthy. Don't worry, Master Lin Ji." Thus, other than this spirit stone, Lin Muyu also bought an 8,000-year ice spirit stone on credit, as well as some rare 1,000-year black iron and spirit stones under 5,000 year. After buying a large cart of things, Jean Xiaoting gave him a horse carriage and told him to drive it back to the Saint Palace. He would first send Chu Yao back, then quickly return to the Saint Palace. It was time to become a weapon-forging grandmaster that would be respected by the world. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.